Welcome to the third presentation of the Bosnian Pyramid Summer Solstice Tour Conference and Festival 2025. I forgot. I have extreme pleasure to greet a friend of mine for almost 2 decades, a man who was famous during his time, quarter century ago, for his songs for adults and children. The man who tried to learn about system, especially about pharmaceutical mafia, going to the Faculty of Pharmacy. But then really a man who is worldwide known and recognized for several things. The first one, the famous Adam's calendar. We usually think that megalithic sites are built in Europe. And first thing that pops up in our mind is Stonehenge. But then we realize we have Avebury Hill, we have Glastonbury, we have dozens of sites in England, but then Scotland, but then Wales, then Ireland, then France, Karnak, then Sweden, then Israel, and then all of a sudden, in southern tip of African continent. Even though he's not a discoverer, he's the one who's godfather to the name because he named this megalithic site, Adam's calendar, explaining why is it so important globally. It is really a human calendar of our events from ancient times, from times before the time. Not only promotion of these megalithic sites, its astronomical, calendar, energetical and other values. He became famous for his discovery of not 1, 10, 100, but thousands upon thousands of stone circles, again, in southern Africa. First South Africa, and then Namibia, Zimbabwe, Swaziland, and other countries. But when it comes to his work in the last 2 decades, he has had 2 careers. And the second career is probably even more important. You know, we live in a society which has been organized long time ago. You have elites on the top, and you have 99% of us, normal, good-intentioned people, literally on the bottom. They have everything, they control energy, they control resources, they control media, they control politicians, they control pharmacy, they control corporate world, they control everything. It's not easy to think of entirely new system which is based on equality. And then going to the world of ideas belongs to very small minority of people called visionaries. Well, tonight in front of us is one such visionary. Man who tried to think how to organize better society. Society where everyone can contribute. Contribution, Ubuntu, where everyone can, starting from their local communities, one small town, change the community, themselves, and the world all together. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to take off because we are going very deep. Michael Tellinger.
Samira. So, since I got this, first of all, thank you very much for being here. I believe some people came a really long way. Some people came as far as Sarajevo. So this is great to have you here. And especially the other countries, I can't remember. But thank you, really appreciate such a wonderful turnout here, and it's been a fantastic event. Let's give a big round of applause, not just to Sam, the visionary here, but all the people that make it possible around it.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, give yourselves a big round of applause. You can be a visionary, but on your own you're going to achieve very little, and that's what we often forget. So, right, where are we? Oh, I was going to say before I go deep that a few years ago Sam gave me this hat, and I must tell you, since then it's been fantastic. Everywhere I go, people recognize me.
Calling you Sam, yeah. Hello,
And
Sam.
they want my autograph, and they ask me about Bosnia and pyramids. So I don't wear it. I wear it outside of Bosnia, but not inside. So yeah, I just put it on just so you could recognize me. Now that I've done that, I'm gonna take it off. This is bloody hot. How's my hair? All right, we're gonna get going here. Whoa. I like to see the slides as they come up so I can prepare myself, and I can't see it there, so I'm going to stand here. So I apologize, I omitted the one heading there which said Vanished Civilizations of Southern Africa, One Small Town Initiative, and the Bosnian Pyramids. I didn't add it in there, but we'll deal with it shortly. So my name is Michael Tillinger, for those who don't know me. It works. I come from South Africa. These are some of the books that I've written. My books, I'm very proud to say at this stage, have been translated into 12 languages, which is really interesting. How that happened, I don't know, but that is a fact. So today we're gonna do what I like to do most, and that's connect the dots from the ancient past to the present and see what we can learn. What can we learn from the ancient civilizations that we can put to the use of our civilization today? Because I'm of the belief that if we can't learn from the past and learn from our mistakes, then we're a bunch of bloody idiots, and we don't deserve to be happy and live in peace. So we need to look at what we've done wrong in the past and stop doing that and do something else. Learn from our mistakes and learn from the past civilizations. And what we find every year, there are new discoveries. It never bloody ends. Like, really, it's like civilization after civilization. Every year, every month, every week, new civilization are discovered. Like, really, when is it gonna stop? So let's dive into the deep end. Even last week, apparently, there was a pyramid-shaped mountain spotted in Bosnia. I need to get this out the way, as I said I would. And I spoke to the guy that claims he saw the mountain. He was going to meet with me this week. Then he phoned me last night and said, listen, I don't know what happened, but we can't meet because last night, apparently a UFO landed above this so-called pyramid and blew it up. So it's gone. There's no more pyramid. And that was my attempt at being funny. Obviously that failed really badly. So I'll move on with my regular presentation. So all I want to leave you with, and this is my Ancient Aliens impersonation. Is it possible? Could it be that there really was a giant pyramid in Bosnia, but it was blown up by aliens? So, let's get serious. You know, 30 years ago, I thought I knew the answers to these three fundamental questions. I was absolutely confident I had it all figured out. And as the years went by, I felt less and less confident. And as I stand here today, I can tell you I got no clue what the answers are to these three fundamental questions. And I think that's a good place to be, certainly for me, because it keeps me wanting to search more and discover more and find more. And as long as we explore, it keeps us alive and keeps our minds working. But we are told that the ancients were primitive. And the ancients looked something like this. And then we are told that it's these guys that build stuff like this. and like this. And see, I don't know what the next slide is. That's why I'm going to slide this up. And I just figured out recently why the ancient civilizations could do all this. Why they were capable of doing these incredible things. Because they didn't have jobs. They had all this free time on their hands. And because they were very bored. So they called a board meeting of all these ancient guys, and that was the first corporate structure, and that's where the word board meeting comes from. And they decided that they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff that will really impress future civilizations. And they started to do stuff. They said, let's drag some big stones from Wales, and we'll put them in a circle, put some stones on top of it, and that's really going to confuse the guys in future. So they did that. And then they went to, hey, let's go to the desert, and let's just make a big lion kind of statue in the sand, bury it in the sand, and somewhere in the future they're going to discover that's going to freak them out. And they said, hey, there's nothing in Lebanon. Let's go to Lebanon, carve a whole bunch of big rocks, put them on a big plateau, and then put some pillars on top. That's going to be really impressive. So they did that, and they said, look, we need more pillars. Let's carve the pillars into statues, and then we put some big concrete blocks on top of it, and that's surely to impress future civilizations. And then they said, let's go up the mountain, build a doorway out of stone, and then build a stone wall and carve some faces that stick out of the wall. That's very scary. That might be really impressive. Not just impressive, but scary too. And they said, hey, let's go into the middle of the desert, find the biggest rock that we can, let's hollow it out, and then just leave it standing there. And then one guy put his hand up in the board meeting and said, hey, how about just something simple? Let's just dig a hole and fill it with stones. So they did that. And then the one guy said, huh. And then somebody else in the board meeting said, what did you say? He said, huh. That sounds like it could be a letter of the alphabet. So I said, well, what's an alphabet? They said, well, I don't know, but let's go up the mountain and make a bunch of hers. So they went up the mountain, made a bunch of hers, and they just left them standing there. That's where the alphabet comes from. That was the first letter of the alphabet, carved in stone. That's why we remember it so well. And then on the other side of the world, the Russians said, screw this, we're not going to let them beat us. They said, let's go up the mountain, and we're not going to just make letters of the alphabet. We're going to carve the biggest ever piece of stone, and we're just going to leave it on the edge of the hill, and maybe at some stage in the future it's going to fall down and destroy the village down at the bottom. That's going to really impress them. And then in India or somewhere out there in the east, they said, let's just carve a whole bloody temple out of solid rock because we can. And then they said, you know what, we're running out of pillars. And so they went back to Lebanon and they built a bunch of pillars on a platform. And that wasn't enough. They said, hey, you know what we've never done? We've never just hollowed out a stone for the fun of it. So they just hollowed out a bunch of stones. They didn't have anything better to do. And then they said, okay, well, you know, let's make things invisible again. So they carved a bunch of big rocks like Lego blocks. They put them together and then they covered it in sand. So no one could see it. And then we realized that these guys were really talented. They could hold their breath for a really, really long time. Because they went under the water and did the same there. And then the big real accomplishment was, hey, our king is about to die. Let's build him a big bloody temple. So they did. They built 3 of them to bury their kings in. And we know this because the Egyptologists tell us that's what they did. And then the final biggest accomplishment was, you know, none of this is really impressive. Let's go out into the Algerian desert and over a 500 square kilometer, let's carve out a PC board structure into the rock, into the sand of the desert, a PC board structure. And the guys in the boardroom said, what's a PC board structure? I don't know, but the future generations will know what that is. And if you haven't seen this yet, this is pretty freaky.
Wow.
And that is not an imprint over the photograph. So I just thought we'd take that little journey of discovery just to realize how ridiculous any claims that ancient civilizations were primitive and that they did everything with rods, hammers and chisels, because that's obviously what they did. And as Sam said earlier, everything you've seen so far seems to be in the northern hemisphere. Very little of archaeological ancient site consequence is in the southern hemisphere. Until
now.
You discover the stone circles of southern Africa. So welcome to my world. And there I'm standing on one of the walls of one of the many stone circles. So if this is the first time you're seeing them, the stone circles are exactly what they're called. They are circles made of stone. But they're so much more. As you can see, it is a stone circle with a whole bunch of stuff going on around it. So I'm just going to take you through some photographs so you can get an idea what they look like. It's only really from the air that you understand and realize how significant they are. Some look very simple, but they're not, because so much is being washed away in between the stone circles that we can't see anymore. Some of them are quite complex. Some of them have been rebuilt, where the walls have been rebuilt a lot higher. This is one of the stone circles that we go to quite regularly. In fact, this is one of the stone circles that does a lot of healing. And just the more you study these, the more you realize how complex they are, and especially the structures around them. It's not just about the stone circle itself, about the structures. It's about the structures around them. You see all this stuff up on the left here. That's all just covered by soil and just washed away by water and so forth. And if you look between the one in the foreground and the one in the distance, you can see under the grass, you can see the images of the stuff that's hidden beneath the soil. And then you get these beautiful flower-shaped stone circles. And the flower-shaped stone circles is a very strong message that we're dealing with some very advanced thinking here. I'm going to come back to that in a little while.
Where exactly is it in South Africa?
This is, a lot of it is in Mpumalanga, in the Free State, in Northwest Province, in Limpopo. It covers large parts of South Africa and pretty much all of Zimbabwe. And then some other places where the stone circles are built are almost like they were doing something else. Whatever this is, not quite sure what's going on here. But it's very, very dense. Some of the walls have been built up quite high like this, which indicates that they've been inhabited recently by other civilizations and people that used the stone circles for themselves. But they were not the builders of the stone circles. What's interesting to note as well, you can see over there on the right hand side, you can see that the outside wall has a wave in it, and there's a very important reason why the outside wall actually were built in waves going around like this. I couldn't figure that out for a long time. Channels that connect them, this is the big thing that really sticks out when you start looking from the aerial photographs. There are really channels that connect them for potentially thousands of kilometers, because there's so many of these stone circles. And they link all of the stone circles together. There's no stone circle that stands alone. It's all part of a giant grid. And sometimes, like here, you can see it almost feels like water came through there and washed some of it away. And here you can see, for example, this stone circle, it's connected there to this channel here. But this little short channel that connects it is eroded away. That's obvious. This is a beautiful channel running here. The stone circles on either side of it aren't visible from this angle, but what is visible are these weird hexagonal honeycomb kind of cells here. And they play a very important role. I'm not going to go into that because, again, I'm just giving you the surface sort of coat information because this is it can go very deep. And
No, you promised.
and I'm not gonna yeah. This is one of my favorite photographs, actually. I must admit, this remains after all these years one of my favorite photographs. The agricultural terraces add a whole other complexity to it. It's like a spider's web that seems to hold everything together. And pretty much wherever you go in southern Africa, you see old eroded agricultural terraces that have been destroyed by farming or by city or town planning and so forth. And it's quite spectacular when your eyes open and you know what you're looking at. Google shots often give it away beautifully. I mean, this is just the hill outside our town of Visoko. And here you can see the stone circles, you can see the terraces and the channels that run between. This is on top of that same hill. So how many of these stone circles are there? Sam hinted about how many there are. So the counting goes back to 1891, the first time when the British archaeologist Theodore Bent, who played a very big role in making these ancient ruins in southern Africa famous, he was the first guy to excavate Great Zimbabwe. He's the first guy to find the famous Zimbabwe birds and made them famous. And he estimated from horseback in 1891 that there were about 4,500 of these stone circle ruins. From horseback, right? He traveled between South Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe to Great Zimbabwe. And by 1976, a guy called Roger Summers that wrote a very famous book about the ancient ruins of southern Africa and Zimbabwe. At that stage, they already had lots more aerial photographs and so forth, so he estimated there were about 20,000 of these ruins. And it was that number, 20,000, that I first found when the stone circle information crossed my desk or landed on my desk or in my view. And I started to look, and there was very little written about it, just a few, like 20 or 30 pages of research, and that was it. And then by 2008, when I moved to Visoko and I started to walk among the stone circles myself, in the first 6 months, I must have walked through about, I'd say 1,000 stone circles, just within a 20, 50 kilometer radius. So I thought, well, if I can walk through 1,000 stone circles myself, just in this area, then there can't just be 20,000. There's got to be a lot more. It's got to be like 100,000. So I called up the retired head of Wits University, archaeology department, Revel Mason. Wits stands for the Witwatersrand University. That's where I graduated from. And Revel answered the phone. Strangely enough, he was retired. He answered the phone, so I said to him, "Revel, hi." This is Sam Osmanagich. So I said, "Revel, hi. You don't know me, but so and so. And so, how many of these sun circles do you think there are?" And I'm not kidding you. Without blinking an eye, within a split second, he said, "Oh, at least 100,000." So I was surprised. I was really surprised because I did not expect that. So now I'm excited and surprised. So I said, "Revel, that's fantastic. I think there's 100,000 sun circles as well." But this poses a huge problem because at that stage, just like he did, I thought, just like everybody else did, that the stone circles were built by people as dwellings for other people or cows. Excuse me. But we were all wrong. So I said to him, if there's 100,000 stone circles and they were built for people or cows, and we allocate 10 people per stone circle because it's a dwelling, that means we have a population of 1 million people. And at no stage in history of southern Africa were there 1 million people roaming around anywhere. So we got a population problem. There was silence on the phone for a little while, and he said, Well, then there can't be 100,000 stone circles. Just like that. Straight back in the academic box. And at that moment, I realized you can't talk to academics that are in the establishment about this. They're just not going to get anywhere. So I started counting. And I counted 1 year, 2, no, I'm kidding. Counted, I used aerial photographs, I used Google Earth, I used every possible tool that I could. I got averages, I broke them up into clusters, I tried to be as scientific as I possibly could. And by the time I finished counting, I realized that we were dealing with the largest concentration of ancient ruins ever found. So how many were there? There were at least 10 million. Just let that sink in. Just really let that sink in. It's not 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 or a million. And at that moment, I knew that we're dealing with an ancient vanished civilization that we know absolutely nothing about. And that's when the excitement really got going. So we're dealing with a real ancient vanished civilization. And, oh, this is a video. Let's see if it's going to play.
Just press keyboard.
Just so you get a sense of what it's like from a drone.
Or a one-eyed giant perspective.
Yeah. Yes. One-eyed giant. And I think here's another one. Now it all depends what angle you stand. If you're at the wrong angle where the sun is with relevance to the sun, you're not going to see much. But as soon as the sun is coming from behind the stone circles, you can see the lines and the shadows, and the terraces and the channels, and they just suddenly come to light. This is sort of between Machado Dorp and Badplas. It's absolutely spectacular. This entire, I don't know, it's like 20 kilometers long and several kilometers wide. But even when you don't see it, it's because the farmland and farming has destroyed it. They plowed through it. So in the areas where the land is quite flat, there it's gone because it's been plowed away and destroyed. And that's why they seem to survive on the mountainous areas, because they don't plow there and they don't develop towns there. All right, so that just gives you an idea of what they look like from aerial shots, because you don't often get to see that. What's fascinating is that there's some very interesting connections between northern civilizations and southern Africa. And this took me by surprise. And let's start with the first obvious one, and that's the Dravidians. Because there's a lot written about the Dravidians in southern Africa, and there are hundreds of these dolmen found all over, especially in Mpumalanga where I am. The Dravidian shrines, the Dravidian gold miners. There's evidence that have already been mining gold since 1,000 years BC in South Africa and Southern Africa and Mozambique. There's this Roman coin from Antonius Pius from 138 AD found in a gold mine in Mutare. I think that was actually found by Theodore Bent as well. It's one of the things that he found, was this coin. What's a Roman coin doing so deep in a gold mine in southern Africa? A Roman coin. This is a Phoenician constellation in one of the Zimbabwean bowl fragments found at Great Zimbabwe. So there's a Phoenician connection. Here's a Babylonian coin. This is on display at the Marian Hill Monastery at their little museum there, found in the early 1800s. When they were digging the foundation of this monastery, they found this coin. So you start to realize this is if you can't see the ankh, there's the circle, there's a radiating circle, and there's your ankh in the middle of the circle. Here we have a whole bunch of crosses and circles. This is all over Sumeria and that part of the world. But I mean, this is a symbol that's well known right across the world, so you can connect that to pretty much any civilization anywhere. What's interesting is that Credo Mutwa actually calls it, he refers to the circle as Mabona, the Lord of Light. And I was never able to ask him before he passed what was the deeper meaning of that statement. Theodore Bent also connected the bird on a pedestal in Egypt to the Zimbabwe birds, which are birds on a pedestal. And the birds on a pedestal in Zimbabwe and Egypt, he found carvings on the entrance to the gold mines, because he researched the gold mining empire in Egypt quite extensively before he came down to southern Africa. Because he died shortly after he left South Africa. I think he died of malaria in 1898 or 1897, so before his book was even published. So he believes that there might be a connection between the Zimbabwe birds on a pedestal as guardians of the gold miners, as the carvings of the gold mines in Egypt were. The guardians, the carvings that he claims were to protect the gold miners when they go to the gold mine. That's his thinking, but there's a connection to Egypt here. So I'm just taking you these are the Zimbabwe birds. They're very famous. They in the little museum at Great Zimbabwe. And so were these the guardians of the ancient gold miners, or the first gold miners on Earth? Who knows? At first, I thought that these may have been very early prototypes, or replicas or prototypes of the Zimbabwe bird. But much later, I realized that that's not what they are. And a little bit later, you'll understand what these very strange shaped stones are all about. As we progress through getting more intelligent, while we start to understand the stone circles. See in the distance here, again, you can see the walls outside the stone circle, that they do this. It's like a wave around the outer perimeter. I was very excited when I found that one. It's in my museum, and I thought it was a carving of a bird stone, but it's not. You'll figure out why it's even more important. And then we have an interesting, potentially pre-Inca or something like that civilization that was found in a bloody sinkhole in Carltonville around 1975. And this is interesting because this story was told to me by the father when I was taking on the banks in 2010, 11, and 12 in South Africa. My lawyer, who was advising me what to do and how to write the papers, his father called me one day, and he was very elderly and sickly. And he said, I just need to tell you the story. I've never told this to anybody else. He worked for a rescue crew. The South African mines are very, very well-trained and organized rescue crews for disasters. And he was part of one of the rescue crews on a mine in Carltonville. And he said they were practicing and testing their equipment, and they were tested in the sinkholes, because that part of the world is famous for its sinkholes. And he said they went down a sinkhole testing the equipment, and at the bottom they found the one side of the sinkhole had caved in. So they opened it up, and there was a passage he described like this. This is not the passage, this is beautifully backlit for the photograph, but I'm just showing this as reference, because that's how he said it was tiled all the way around. And so they, obviously surprised, so they go into this passage, it was cave or tunnel, and he said it was obviously pitch black, but they've got all the equipment and all that. So like 4 of them go down into this tunnel. And he says about 20 or 40 meters, I can't remember, but you know, quite a way into it. He says suddenly they were faced by a character like this, standing there in the middle of the tunnel. He says they shat themselves. Really. Excuse my language, but that's what he told me. He says they didn't know what to do. They just turned around and got out of there. And he never spoke to anyone about it. He says he doesn't know if the others told anybody, but he never told anyone until he told me. So, what's going on here? Really? The flagship among all these ruins is unquestionably Adam's calendar. So, it is a working calendar. This is Johan Heine, who found it in 2004. He found it by flying over it by accident, and he looked down and he went, that's not a natural stone formation. And he came back later that day and he started to measure it, and he realized, oh my goodness, this thing is aligned to the cardinal points, to the solstices and equinoxes. And there you can see the shadow. This is how the calendar works. So the sun sets on this side, and this stone casts a shadow on this stone. And this shadow goes from this edge. This is the summer solstice, and it goes, and as the sun moves from summer to winter, that shadow moves across until it reaches this edge here, and that's the winter solstice, and then it stops and goes back. So it's still an accurate calendar. And Johan spent at least a month researching it. He put a whole paper over this, a big paper over it, and he came and marked the sun every day. So he did a lot of the original research that show that this is an intelligently designed calendar. It's aligned to all the cardinal points, north, south, east, west, and it is Credo Mutwa that told me you can see the Adam's Calendar book lying there on the table. That's the first time I met Credo was in 2008, and I just published that book. And when I brought it to him, he opened it up and he just started to cry. If you don't know who Credo Mutwa is a sort of preeminent South African shaman, Sangoma, shaman, medicine man, and he became a Sanusi, which is the highest order of shamanism, I believe. And a very wise guy, strange guy, as we all are, had his own quirks, but full of wisdom, and he shared a lot of that knowledge with me. And I feel eternally grateful that I caught him on 3 occasions where he shared his knowledge with me, and I tried to remember as much as I could. So I showed him the Adam's Calendar book, and he just started to cry. And he said he never thought he'd see that special place again. And then he told me that he was initiated there as a young boy in 1937, and they would go there all the time and have special ceremonies. So it is well known among the African shamanic tradition. And the government knows nothing about it, and they don't care. In fact, they're still trying to stop us from going there. I'm not kidding. They're still trying to stop us from going there and taking tourists there. It's never stopped since I first started going there. So he calls it Inzalo Yelanga, which in Zulu means birthplace of the sun. And he claims this is where humanity was created by the gods to be the slaves in the gold mines. These are his words, not mine. Do with that information what you want, but I like it. This is just a 3D reconstruction of Adam's Calendar. What you can see there is there's a bird-shaped stone. Believe it or not, it's weird, but there it is. And those 3 stones next to it line up with Orion's belt, but I'm going to have to change it, and it's now going to be, I'm going to change it, it's going to line up with the 7 sisters, with the Pleiades. That's an inside joke. So, I keep forgetting I've got this in my hand. So you see it just, it lines up with the rise of those 3 Orion belt stars, but I'll just replace that background with the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, and it'll be just as impressive. Anyway, this is all part of Adam's Calendar. It's like, really? How can you make this stuff up? So this is one of the early photographs when Johann Heine was still, researching Adam's calendar. It was just called the calendar, and or the stone calendar. And his wife or his daughter took this photograph. But look down here. What is that?
Pyramid.
Yeah, exactly. So when I saw that picture, I went, what? Nah, it can't be. Come on. You gotta be kidding. So I thought, well, how can I prove that those pyramidal hills, because they're covered by soil, trees growing on them, I've been there many times, they could be, is it possible that those could be pyramids? And then I did what Sam has so elegantly done with all the amazing spirals connecting all the mountains and the tumuli and the pyramids around this area. So in 2008 I drew a spiral, and there you go. It connects Adam's calendar, the gravesite, which you haven't seen yet, and the spiral ends right between the pyramids. So there's definitely a connection somehow. And this is not an accident. That spiral could have ended anywhere, but not at the pyramids. So we've since then done a lot of research, a lot of channeling about the pyramids, and it consistently comes back that they were created as pyramids. They were working directly with Adam's calendar, and we'll talk about what Adam's calendar is and how it worked and so forth. And then I realized that when you connect Adam's calendar through Great Zimbabwe, it lands right in the Great Pyramid of Giza. And that distance, by the way, is about 8,000 kilometers, or just more than 8,000 kilometers, so about 5,000 miles from Adam's calendar to the Great Pyramid of Giza. So what happened to this civilization? This is interesting, because I think this picture it gives us a lot of clues. This is one of the Sumerian kings list, one of the famous ones, and some of the translations from the kings list gives us a lot of the names of the kings and how long they lived and where they ruled and so forth. But what caught my attention was the last line in this one, and then the flood swept over. Oh, another flood story. So I thought, wow, if anything, these photographs show us and indicate that there's a lot of soil and sand that's been deposited on the stone circles. Because this you can only see from the air. You can't see this when you walk on the ground. You can only see it from the air. So thousands and thousands of stone circle ruins are covered by soil and sand. That somehow some water must have brought there and deposited there. So it's possible that the flood, the Great Flood, or some other flood, was responsible for destroying many of the stone circle ruins and covering them in soil. And these photographs really show it beautifully. What is this activity all about? And pretty much all this ancient activity is always about the gold. So, is there any evidence of ancient gold mines in southern Africa? Of course there is. There's wherever there's stone circles, there are gold mines. You can see some stone circles and terraces there. And there are thousands of these added, I refer to as added gold mines. They're into the side of the mountain. But these are quite new. But the point I'm showing them to you is because even in the last 200 or 300 years, this kind of mining has been going on such a large scale that nobody is aware of it. Anglo-American actually commissioned a research into counting how many of these added mines there are. And again, I was told this by a geologist who was part of that research experiment in Nelspruit, South Africa. And I can't recall now if it was 750 or 7,500 or 75,000, but it was one of those. Even if it's 750, it's a lot. I believe it was probably 7,500 because I was really impressed with the number. So it wasn't 750, it was more than that. And Anglo-American actually tried to close these mines up because they didn't want miners to go in there. They call them zama-zamas in South Africa. They go and mine illegal gold mining everywhere. So it's a big problem. There are just many of these. I went out one day with my friend who showed me these mines. We must have seen 40 of these in one day, just walking 1 or 2 sort of mountains. And then I was told by a guy that his grandfather in the 1930s was drilling and mining in the northern part of Limpopo province in South Africa, and at about 30 meters he stumbled upon a tunnel. This is not a picture of the tunnel, but the way he explained it to me. He said it was a tunnel, mining, somebody was mining there, and they found a whole bunch of tools and artifacts in a mining tunnel. So they called the mining authority and they said, what is this? The mining authority came. They said, thank you very much. They collected all the tools and artifacts. They disappeared with this. And they said the answer to the guy was, we are aware of this. Oh, so what is it? I never explained. They just took all the stuff and they disappeared. And they never figured out what this ancient mining tunnel was. Also in the north, I was told by my friend who's a geologist and archaeologist at one of the universities in South Africa, that told me he walked through kilometers of tunnels like this in the Volkberg Mountains of Limpopo province, and he found what was fascinating, that there was platinum slag. They were mining gold, but they were leaving platinum slag behind. Now, they're obviously not interested in platinum, they're interested in the gold. Strange as it may seem. So, another interesting thing I was told by a guy who was friendly with the directors of De Beers. De Beers, obviously, Anglo-American merged, Anglo-American bought De Beers. And in the 1990s, they found a shaft that he described about 22,000 feet deep, cut with absolute precision. And they had no idea who did it or where it came from. And they keep covering these kind of things up. In fact, I was I was at a bar having a drink for a friend of mine's birthday, just shortly after I released Slave Species of God. And there was this tall bugger standing next to me at the bar, so we started to chat. I said to him, what do you do? He said, I'm a chief geologist for Anglo-American. I went, no way. So I started to quiz him. So, hey, do you guys ever find ancient mines and stuff? And he said, yeah, we find them all the time. I said, cool, so what do you do? He said, well, our instructions are to cover them up. So I said, do you ever find anything in the mines? Like, do you find any remains, human remains, or other remains? He said, yeah, we find them all the time. We just found one 2 months ago near Bloemfontein. So I said, so what did you do? We just covered it up. From the guy himself. So he says, in fact, he told me that, no, we've got a file at the head office where we keep record of all these mines that we found that we had to cover up. So somewhere in Anglo there's an interesting archaeological folder with some interesting archaeological data that we need to sneak in and get. 2014, a friend of mine who worked at the time in a modern mine in South Africa, told me that the previous week they came to stand at Stone Circle Lodge, and he said, yeah, just like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a part of the one tunnel, the tunnel in the mine, just opened up, and it opened up into this whole ancient tunnel that nobody knew where the hell, what. So obviously they started to snoop around there, and then immediately the mine, security came, and the head office stepped in and said no one was allowed in there. It was all cordoned off. They closed that whole section of the mine off. No one was allowed to go in there. That's it. In Zimbabwe, northern Zimbabwe, very, very ancient ruins. There are these weird water furrows and slave pits, what they call slave pits, that no one has been able to explain. This is what they refer to as slave pits. This is apparently where they kept their slaves in, because you can't escape from that. And there's a geologist that's a lecturer at Zimbabwe University called Anne Kritzinger. She wrote a bunch of papers about this, and she actually reached out to me via email and sent me her latest papers on this subject. She studied these so-called slave pits, and she claims that they are processing purification extraction tanks for processing of gold. She found inlet valves and outlet valves, and she found at the outlet valves a yield of up to 2 grams a ton of gold. So they were processing gold in there, and somehow it also, they didn't process it well enough, and it got stuck in the outlet valves. So when was the civilization first rediscovered? And this takes us back to 1488. Bartolomeus Dias from Portugal came around the Cape of Good Hope, and there you can see his journey. And then when he we sort of went on land somewhere here on the Mozambican side, somewhere here. He met the locals and he asked them about who lived there, whose land was it, and he asked them about the ruins. They found some ruins, and they found many stone ruins. They write about it in their journals. So in the Portuguese journals, this information is all well documented. So the tribes didn't know who built the stone ruins. He asked them, who built it? Did you guys build it? They said, no, we didn't build it. We're just using it. We're just occupying it. And this is Great Zimbabwe, by the way. So they landed. So when he asked the locals, he said, who does this land belong to? And the answer was Terra dos Macomates, the land of the Macomati people. And who are the Macomati people? Macomati people were...
From Drakensberg.
What?
From Drakensberg.
The Macomati people were Dravidian gold miners that were mining gold, and the evidence is Dravidians that were gold mining people from India, already 1000 BC. And there seems to be overwhelming evidence for this. This is a book written by Cyril Hromnik. He's a Slovak who lived in South Africa for many years. And he did a lot of work, a lot of research on this, and published this book where he compares the links between the Dravidians and Indian culture and South African culture. And it's a fascinating, fascinating read. So in the 11th century, Arab scholar Ahmed al-Biruni describes the prosperous gold exports from the port of Sofala. Now, port of Sofala is here. This is Beira today. We're in Mozambique. That's where the old port of Sofala was. It's gone. It's no longer there. But port of Sofala is one of the biggest ports of trade, trading ports in the ancient world. It goes back thousands of years. It is crazy how people just don't know this. The West knows nothing about this part of the world. Port of Sofala at one stage was the #1 trading port in the world. It's crazy. Nobody knows about it. Right? So he describes that there was prosperous gold 1 month journey inland from the port of Sofala. So you go inland, boom, 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 1 month journey. What is that? Masvingo. What is that, Masvingo? Great Zimbabwe. And also the gold was a month journey inland. I've just said so. And this guy here, Ibn Battuta, he also says that same. This is actually a Portuguese or a Dutch, I think this is a Dutch drawing of the port of Sofala in the 1600s. 1 month's travel to find the gold. Okay, you know that. And this is Great Zimbabwe, obviously, from the air. So what do you notice? Same structure as the stone circles, right? And you can see all the stuff around it. There's so much to be excavated there, but just like in Giza, they're not excavating. Let's just give you a size of the walls. This seems to be like the headquarters or something like that of the Golden Empire's headquarters, or whatever you want to call it. So on the gold subject, one of the greatest golden mysteries of the past 2 centuries comes from Southern Africa, and that is the story when the British Empire invaded South Africa and started the Anglo-Boer War, which is a very tragic part of our history. When in today's money, it remains the most expensive war the British Empire has ever fought. They sent... So it was between 1899 and 1902. You can see most of it was British colony by then. And just the 2 orange places there in the middle, the Orange Free State and the Transvaal, were under the Boer Republic, known as the Boer Republics. Boer or Boer, as English people pronounce it. Boer means farmer. So those are the farmer republics. And the English wanted everything. And they just dug their heels in and fought them. And the English sent 470,000 troops. Just picture that. 470,000 troops in 1899. 470,000 troops. not 70, to fight 60,000 farmers and another 60,000 tribal Africans. And they thought they're going to win this quickly, but it didn't go so well. So it was all about the gold, obviously. They needed to secure the gold for the crown. And this is when Paul Kruger stuck his heels in, dug his heels in, and refused to budge. Paul Kruger, known from the Kruger ads. And Paul Kruger's army and President Stein's army fought the British, and they were winning. Until the British implemented what they called the scorched earth policy. So they burned down the farms, they killed all the animals, and they put all the farmers' wives, or the boers, who were fighting the British, they put them in concentration camps. They set up 45 concentration camps, so the Germans weren't the inventors of the concentration camps, the British invented the concentration camps in South Africa in 1899. They put about 45,000 women and children in there, and an unknown number of black South Africans, and they starved them to death. Over the period, this is some pictures from the concentration camps. And an unknown number of black South Africans had died in the British concentration camps. And that's how they slowly won the war. But on the January 26, 1900, a very interesting battle took place. And the reason I put it in here is for another reason, because it's got significant historic value. Because this battle here could have changed the outcome of all of future generations, of all our generations today. And it was known as the Battle of Spionkop. It became one of the bloodiest battles. I mean, just looking at that picture makes me sick. So many young men died in that battle on that little hill that they just dug big trenches and they buried them right there on the spot. And everyone, with the horses and everything. But there were 3 world leaders involved on that little hill that day. And if any one of those leaders caught a bullet, it would have changed the future of the world. The first one was Winston Churchill. He was in there. He was a war correspondent for the Brits. And he was caught. The Boer caught the bastard, and then he escaped. The Brit who got away. And then, you know what he went on to do. The other one was Mahatma Gandhi. He was a stretcher bearer for the British. So he was on the Brit side. And if Mahatma Gandhi caught a bullet, what would have happened in India? We don't know. And then the third one, was the least famous, was General Louis Botha. He was the general of the Boer army, who then went on to become the first Prime Minister of the Union of South Africa in 1910, after having to capitulate. So it's a very interesting part of our history, because if any one of those guys died, we don't know what kind of future we'd have had. So on the 4th of June 1900, a train filled with gold left Pretoria, headed for Mozambique. So just to give you orientation here, there's Pretoria, it's the capital, one of the capitals of South Africa. It left for Mozambique, there, Maputo. I live there, close to Nelspruit, that's where I live. So a train filled with gold went there, and it was heading for Maputo. It became known as the Train of Gold. And it's they don't know how much gold is on it, but there are all kinds of speculations. Anything from 30 tons to 3,000 tons of gold. And it went past the famous the route goes through Belfast, which is like 30 kilometers away from me towards Pretoria. Then Machadodorp, which is my neighboring town, Watervalboven, where I live, and then you come all the way down the hill into the Lowveld, and that's where you get Watervalonder. And that's where Paul Kruger had his farm, and this was his little house. The railway station is literally 50 meters behind his house, behind this little house. This is now a museum, the Paul Kruger Museum. And after the train left Machadodorp, it was never seen again. It vanished without a trace. The richest train in the history of all of world transport, right? And this has caused one of the greatest treasure hunts around the world. Hundreds, if not thousands of people come to South Africa every year looking for the Kruger treasures. Because people believe that the train disappeared and he took the gold off the train and he buried it somewhere. And some weird things have happened. Some people have mysteriously become incredibly wealthy by finding a small chest of like 1,000 Kruger coins and then becoming very wealthy and disappearing, and you never hear from them again. But just to give you an idea, this is what the Krugerrands looked like when he minted them. They were known as the Veldpond. Veld means field, outside in the field, and pond means pound, because it's it was not the British pound, it was the Kruger Veldpond, field pound. Today, one of those is worth about $90,000. And there was a family that was, it's well recorded, and I believe it's true, that found a chest of about 3,000 of these some time ago in the 90s. And they became ridiculously wealthy and moved to Switzerland. Anyway, so unfortunately, we keep asking the wrong question. We ask, where is the gold? Or what happened to the gold? That's the obvious knee-jerk reaction, because we want to know where the gold is. Well, the correct question is, where did Paul Kruger get all the gold from to fill a whole train? That's the question we should be asking, not what happened to the gold. So the gold production in the year 1900, when that happened, in Johannesburg, which is the big gold rush era in the world at that stage, was about 1 ton per year from all the gold mining that was exploding there. That's where you find the foundations of Anglo-American, the Oppenheimers, and Barney Bonato, and the Kimberley and the diamond mining. That's where it all comes from that era. So the gold rush started from about 1864, which started at Kaapse-Hoop, where a 5.2 kilogram gold nugget was found. What is at Kaapse-Hoop? Adam's calendar. And we started to connect the dots, right? That's just a view from one of the observation places near Adam's calendar, looking down into the same valley, or the impact crater, the Barberton crater. Now this is again the reconstruction of Adam's calendar, looking at the same Barberton crater with the pyramids down there, and it overlooks dozens of gold mines. Even today, there's still about 5 or 6 gold mines that are active on the other side of the rim. So what they believe is that this is a crater, there was an impact crater, and that created the rim of mountains around it, and the ripples in the lower areas, and then the big mountains further out. So it is well known that where there's impact craters, there's a lot of gold. And strangely enough, there's a gold mine right underneath Adam's calendar. Literally right underneath it. We explored that in 2018, I think, 2019. And we found the entrance to the gold mine. We didn't open it. We didn't go in there. It's a very scary thing. But it was quite an exploration.
Just keep saying that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what is the name of the site?
Adam's calendar. But the mine was a well-known mine, and it closed in 1932, I think, around there. So Kaapse-Hoop was established as a gold mining town, a frontier gold mining town with a normal kind of Western bars and saloons and all the stuff. It was crazy, like one of those movie scenes. And they were mining gold. And then they closed the mine in either 1925 or 1932, around there. But the mine is still there. In fact, when we discovered Adam's calendar, there was still a little mound of stones with a metal rod in it with a plaque on it, which is a mining claim. Somebody's going to mine gold right here. And they never mined gold. If they did start to mine gold there would be no Adam's calendar. We wouldn't have found it. They would have completely destroyed it. There were a whole bunch of these gold mining claims along the top where Adam's calendar is. And they never started to mine them. That is a miracle in itself. Why would you not mine gold if you own the claim? Ask yourself, what prevented them from mining the gold? One of the interesting things is that entire area below Adam's calendar is filled with this yellowish sand. This is John Paul, by the way. He was there with us. Are you here, John Paul? Sleeping? Oh, yeah.
No. I'm remembering it so well. It's so vivid in my mind.
So when you look down from Adam's calendar at that entire bottom area, you see this like yellow sand, yellowish sand, just like the what we call mine dumps in South Africa. This is the tailings of the gold mining, and literally Johannesburg is built on gold, on this yellow sand. All the highways, you can see, everything in Joburg is built on this golden sand. That's still got up to 5 grams per ton of gold in the sand. It's crazy. So in the last 10 years or so, there's been this rush to reprocess the sand because they don't have to dig it out, they don't have to mine it, they just scoop it up and process it and make a lot of money out of it. So our mine dumps are disappearing very quickly. But this is what I grew up with. And in the beginning they were just yellow sand, and they started to plant grass on them, and then they disappeared. Then they became hills, and you wouldn't know that they were actually mine dumps. But they're this beautiful yellow sand, and they're just everywhere. Johannesburg is literally one giant mine dump. And this is the sand below Adam's calendar. This is the sand below Watervalboven. This color, it's discolored a bit. It's actually a lot more yellow than, it's changed the color a bit. This is Sheba Gold Mine, which is literally, when you look out from Adam's calendar, right slightly to the left of the pool, it's Sheba Gold Mine, known as the richest gold mine in the world. And I don't believe that they accidentally started to mine gold there. They found an old mine and they just continued mining. That's what it looks like in the late 1800s when they were mining there. So Sheba Gold Mine's got some fascinating stories about how much gold is in there. And this is a guy called Paul Saker. He's a consulting geologist. This is on the stoep at my lodge at Stone Circle Lodge. We sat there with Sam and John Paul many times. And this guy just arrived there out of the blue. So I started to talk to him, and I said, "Oh, what you doing? Why did you come here?" He said, "Oh, I'm interested in your stuff and the ruins." And I said, "So what do you do?" He said, "I'm a consulting geologist for the mining industry." I went, "Oh, do you know anything about Sheba Gold Mine?" He said, "Do I know about Sheba Gold Mine?" He says, "No." And I told him I heard the story about this big chamber that there's gold oozing out of the walls. He says, "Yeah." He was called there in 1985 or 87, called out to come and investigate this weird phenomenon that freaked the miners out, the mining overlords. They found this huge cavern, which he described. He says it's the size of the Vatican. He says it's huge. And in there, they found veins of gold, as if there were roots of trees in there, and then they were just removed. And there were some of the veins of gold were empty, and some of the veins still had gold oozing out of it, like a very thick jelly kind of form of gold oozing out of these veins. That's what I heard. I heard that via the grapevine from people that live around the Barberton area. Barberton is the town closest to Sheba Gold Mine. And he confirmed it, and he was the geologist that went to investigate it. I can tell you a lot more about that. I'm just really, again, just giving you the overview of how deep the stuff goes. So he confirmed that story. And it's, I'm told that that Barberton Gold Mine, I don't know if that's still the case or not, but at some stage the gold mines had a quota that they could produce so much gold per month and not more. Otherwise it would become, I don't know why. And so Barberton would mine, and they get towards the end of the month, and if they didn't have enough gold from the normal rock, they would go into this little side area and scrape a whole bunch of this oozing gold out of that special secret place, and they would bring them up to the quota every month. So that's why they called the richest gold mine in the world, because of that. Sumerian references to gold mining in southern Africa, that really gets interesting. And this is where we get to the Sumerians and the Anunnaki and all that mystery. And Enki, the grand architect. Some of the translations are really interesting, and they refer to the work in the Abzu by Enki. And the Abzu has been given many different names and meanings, but one of the meanings that sticks out to me is that Abzu was the place where the gold came from, where they found the gold. So this is some of the translations. Where the landmass the shape of a heart was given, In the lower part thereof, golden veins from the earth's innards were abundant. Abzu of gold, the birthplace. Here to the region the name gave. So, you can fill in the gaps. And if you don't know what Southern Africa is all about, this is South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. It all fits together there. And the Sumerian god Enki, in the Abzu, Enki plans was conceiving where to build his house, where for the heroes' dwellings to prepare, where the bowels of the earth to enter, to mine the gold. Then we read about Enki and the creation of a species. Let us create a Lulu, a primitive worker, the hardship work to take over. Let the being the toil of the Anunnaki carry on his back. And then the creation of Adamu, that's actually a Sumerian seal, one of those seals that, those little things that you roll in the clay and it makes this pretty picture. And that's apparently the creation of Adamu, or Adam. A primitive worker shall be created, our command he will understand. Our tools he will handle, to the Anunnaki in the Abzu relief shall come. So you can read a lot between the lines here. They needed help, they wanted to mine the gold, but they didn't want to get their hands dirty, so they wanted some dirty slaves to do the work for them, and they created a slave race. And once again, this is what Creator Mutwa says, that Adam's calendar is a place where some of this creation took place, some of this cloning took place. The cloning of a new species, or the Adamu species to be the slave in the gold mines. I can tell you, this is Anton Parks, for those that are interested in Sumerian translations. Anton Parks is an absolute must-read. There's a lot of interesting contradictions or disconnection from what you read in Sitchin, and I'm really not interested in about Sitchin was wrong. I don't care. Even if 2% of what Sitchin gave us was right, that's good enough for me, because he opened my eyes and made me go down the rabbit hole and discover this whole new world of our history that I didn't know before. So I don't care if most of what Sitchin wrote was wrong. He made me open my eyes, and here we are discussing all this stuff. So Anton Parks is the new kid on the block, 50-year-old kid or whatever. I don't know how old Anton Parks is these days. But he's definitely the guy to read if you're interested in the Sumerian texts. That's what I found, if you can find his books. He says that Adam, or Adamu, or Adam actually means beast or animal, or on the right hand side there, a slave being completely subservient to the gods. So that's what the meaning of Adam is, according to Parks. This is a reference to Enki's mines and his technology. It says, the earth splitter Enki there established, therewith in the earth a gash to make, by way of tunnels earth's innards to reach, the golden veins to uncover. It's just beautiful. I love it. It all fits in. So, the question is, where did Paul Kruger get all his gold from? We come back to that one. Well, the Buddha were famous for digging trenches and digging tunnels to hide from the Brits. Is it possible, could it be, that the Buddha accidentally stumbled upon one of these tunnels? Like our mine rescue team in Carltonville. And that tunnel was filled with gold. We know that there are many tunnels in South Africa filled with gold. I will tell you how I know this, but then you know what the consequences are. So I won't tell you because I like you. So no, seriously, we do have some interesting technology that, and we tried this. We went digging for one of these tunnels a long time ago, 10 years ago, maybe even more. Okay, I'll digress a little bit. So this information landed in our lap. I'm not going to mention names or anything. And my friend arrived with other people with technology and measuring tools, and we found one of these on the map, because they're not in hospital, easily accessible areas. It's not like, oh, let's go there, there's a tunnel here. No. It's mountainous, it's crazy. But we know from this radar scanning, the tunnels are there, And according to the map, there were hundreds of these tunnels filled with insane amounts of gold. I still have that map under my bed in a little pipe, so where I keep it very safe.
Not anymore, you know.
It's behind and it's on the bookshelf. It's behind the and that's the map of the tunnels with all the gold in it, just so that you don't get confused. It's not the key to my safe. So they discovered these ancient. I was digressing, right? Yeah. Sure. So we came together there in South Africa at my house, and it was literally down the road from me. So we went and spoke to the farmer. We said, listen, you might think we're crazy, but we think this is... He's familiar with the fact that thousands of crazy people come every year to look for the Kruger gold. So he's used to that. So he said, look, we think there's some Anunnaki gold here. We had to tell him that there's some gold here. And there might be a tunnel here, because otherwise he wouldn't let us dig on his farm. So he said, look, if we find something, you can have 1%. No, you can have, I can't remember what the agreement was, but he was happy, we agreed on it, and we started to dig, like a bunch of freaking idiots. What do we know about digging? How to dig down 30 meters deep or whatever. But the thing is, when you do this kind of work, and the more the days went by, the more I realized how stupid we were and how dangerous this is. So let's say we find a tunnel filled with 500 tons or 1,000 or 3,000 tons of gold. What are we going to do with it? And how long are we going to keep that a secret? What, do you think that one of the guys is digging for us as they work? Do you think they're not going to tell their friends? Do you think they're not going to come at night and try and haul some of it away? Or do you think the mafia in Johannesburg that tries to control the gold market isn't going to find you and take you out because they don't want you to have? It's like, are you insane? And the more the days went by, the closer we got, the more nervous I got. Like, what the hell are we doing? This is not a joke. And thank God, God intervened. So we believe we were really, really close, like a few meters away, after about a week or 2 weeks digging. I think it was about 2 weeks. And things break, and then you have to get guys to come and repair stuff. So now they know what you're doing. So we kept telling them, what are you guys doing here? Oh, we're just, I forgot what we told them. We made up some BS story about what we're doing. Anyway, the one morning we wake up, and there was heavy torrential rain all night long. So I wake up in the morning, and I phoned the guy on the farm. I said, listen, is it raining down there? He says, yeah, it's pissing down, and so the river is flooded. So we drive down there, and we can't get to the farm, because the river is like a meter over the flood bridge. You can't drive over it. So now we're thinking, well, our hole's gone, our hole's full of water. So I phoned him up. I said, can you check how much water is in the hole? So he goes down there and he says, no, it's full. It's full. Right up to the top. So we think, well, that's it. There's our dig over. It's gone. We go home. 2 hours later, he phones me. He says, you won't believe it, but the hole's empty. The water is gone. I'm not kidding you. But that still we didn't find the gold. That's why I'm here, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I'd be in Monte Carlo, driving my favorite car. Anyway, so is it possible that Paul Kruger found one of these ancient tunnels and actually found the gold? If he knew what we know, that this is most likely Anunnaki gold and there's a lot more of it, he would have gone and got the biggest army in Europe, all the bloody German army from Bismarck and all those guys in Germany to come and fight the Brits. They would have defeated the Brits because he knew there was a lot more gold, but he didn't realize what he had found. So they ended up losing the war. The bloody British took the country. So the British royalty knew about this. They know about the Anunnaki gold. So I believe that when they saw how much gold Paul Kruger had, they got nervous. And they went, hold on, where's this dude getting all this gold from? We better go down there and secure the place. That's why they sent 470,000 troops. Because of the gold. Not because they wanted to beat a bunch of farmers on horseback. They needed to make sure they secured those bloody gold mines and the underground tunnels, and the Buddha didn't dig any more tunnels. So what were the stone circles for? No doors and entrances. That's the one thing you may not be aware of. None of the original stone circles have doors and entrances. What does that mean? It means they were not built for humans or animals. They were built for something else. It's continuous walls that go around and you can't get in. But according to archaeologists and historians at our universities, they used to put the cattle in over the wall at night. And then they found some stone circles that there were some very narrow doors, and this, I'm not kidding you, I'm not making this up. Some of the stone circles had very narrow entrances, and because according to the archaeologists these must be cattle kraals, right, for cows or sheep, so they said, oh, these entrances are too small for normal cows. So they came up with the idea that these ancients had dwarf cattle. I'm not making this up. Go read the university textbooks. This is the kind of crap they put in our textbooks. It's just insane. And we pay for our children to go and this stuff. We pay a lot of money for them to go and learn this. So no dwellings for people or cows. It's all about cymatics. If you understand cymatics and you understand how sound manifests into physical form, you understand. I don't know if this works. Oh, it does. So, I'm sure that you're all familiar with this, but it's beautiful to watch. Just every sound frequency has its own specific shape. Everything in creation has its own specific coherent resonant frequency. Keep in mind that we are watching a 2D effect of a 2D version of a 3D effect going on here. So we're really watching basic stuff here. And you notice that the higher the pitch, the more complex the structure. Okay, so the higher the frequency, the more complex the structure. So after studying the stone circles from the aerial photographs, it became very evident that what we're looking at some of these structures are like almost identical to some of the terraces and the what I call spider's web effect around the stone circles. It's mind-blowing. So you can't even hear that frequency anymore. And it's still, so just because you can't hear it doesn't mean it's not there, right? And keep in mind that every sound frequency has a light attached to it, and every light has a sound frequency attached to it. The two are inextricably connected. That's another thing that they don't teach us in school or in science and physics. So you can take one look at this and you realize we're dealing at cymatic patterns. So the stone circles represent the sound frequency as it comes out of the ground at that specific place. And if you look at the size of these, this is consistent with the Schumann resonance. So now the stone circles are representation of good earth frequencies, and they give off energy and they vibrate. And just like Sam has measured all the frequencies and all the amazing things in the tunnels and the pyramid and the 28 kilohertz and so forth, in 2010, I think it was in August 2010, for the first time we started to measure sound frequencies, magnetic fields, electromagnetic fields coming out of the walls of the stone circles. And it blew my mind. And I realized we're dealing with energy generating devices. So the stone circles put out, like I said, powerful electromagnetic waves. So the way it works, simplistically for me, the stones are placed on the cymatic pattern that somehow whoever built them recognized what the shape of the sound would be in that area. And the reason that they're such weird shapes, because it's not a flat metal plate. It's a rough surface of the earth right there. So it's not going to be a perfect symmetrical shape or as beautiful as the sand on that metal plate. It's going to be a very weird shape. And that's how we find this. It's still going to be circular, but it's going to have, little dents and so forth. So they knew where the cymatic pattern was, and they piled the stones on the shape of the cymatic pattern. And again, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. I'm trying to give you a broader overview. We know how they did this. But once again, I can't tell you because then, you're not initiated into the Brotherhood of the Stone Circles yet. So where was I? So now that you got the stones on the cymatic patterns they start to amplify the frequencies coming out of the ground. It's obvious. And that's what we measure. We measure that in the walls.
Years ago at Los Alamos, I saw a film of how small metal particles could be rearranged to stand up 2 or 3 inches. That would illustrate the bridge work that you're seeing there.
Yeah. Look, there's so much information I have about this, but that would be a discussion for an hour on its own. So just, so the frequencies come out of the earth. It's either Schumann resonance or fractals thereof or harmonics thereof, and they vibrate these walls and the stones in the walls. The reason why these walls do this, because the stones in the walls have very specific acoustic properties. They ring like bells. They are very unique stones that they use in these walls for the reason that they have to have acoustic conductivity so that they can amplify and conduct the sound coming out of the earth. This is such simplistic, beautiful science and knowledge of how to generate energy. It's mind-blowing. And the fact that there are 10 million or more of these is even more mind-blowing. Like, really? How much energy did they need? And we measured serious high frequencies coming out of these, like mind-blowing. The guy that was, again, I don't have the tools to measure it. Can't afford the tools. But over the years, people have come with all kinds of weird and amazing tools. Some very expensive tools, some very basic tools, and they all conclude the same thing. So I don't have to buy the equipment. So it's a giant energy generating grid. That's what we're looking at. That generates huge amounts of energy. And then you throw into it the magnetron shaped stone circles, the flower shaped stone circles that are clearly giant magnetrons. And magnetrons are very powerful energy generating devices that are used in microwaves that generate all the power in a microwave. It's a magnetron, and the magnetrons are very dangerous. I mean, people play around with magnetrons. It's just really dangerous to play around with magnetrons. So you can clearly see that there are thousands of these magnetron-shaped stone circles. So in among the ordinary basic stone circles that just generate ordinary energy, they've thrown a bunch of bloody giant magnetrons that generate an insane amount of energy. And then I find, this is interesting, this is a seal, a Sumerian seal of Enki on his throne over there. And all these bloody magnetron shapes floating around. Right? So you start to connect these dots. And I don't know what the rest means, but you can analyze it and tell me later. So let's go back to Adam's calendar. The measurements at Adam's calendar are also off the charts. And we measured vertical electromagnetic fields, and we measured vertical and horizontal electromagnetic fields at Adam's calendar. The problem with both the stone circles and Adam's calendar, many times, like when you fly a drone there, you lose contact with your drone. That's it. And the one guy actually lost his drone. It just stopped working. He had to find it like 1.5 kilometers away. And The measurements at Adam's calendar off the charts are actually higher than any of the stone circles. So I'm of the opinion that it's like a torus, a vortex toroidal field that was created for something to do with the gold mining that was going on below. So again, Adam's calendar overlooked potentially either hundreds of ancient gold mines or one gigantic ancient gold mine that I'm beginning to think that may have been the very first ancient gold mine that Enki started to mine in southern Africa, or the Abzu as they call it, and that's why they put the calendar on top of the hill overlooking this huge gigantic gold mine. That's why we have all that yellow sand everywhere down at the bottom, and that's why we have modern day gold mines in the sides of the mountains still today. It's like vultures picking up the leftovers from all the ancient gold mining. Interesting stuff. So beam up the gold, Scotty. Is that possible what Adam's calendar was used for? Bring it up to the top, put the gold between the two central metal plates, switch it on, say, where would you like the gold? Over there. Okay. Stand aside. So stone circles are not the only ancient energy generating devices. I'm going to speed up a little bit here because this starts to get quite interesting. Stones have high crystal content, well, especially these particular stones, and high crystal content, silica dioxide. So we got silica, we got oxygen, and again, my favorite subject when we get into the chemistry of the stuff. That's beautiful. I just love it. So remember quartzite, silica dioxide. Quartz has memory. Quartz, remember that quartz is used in storing information and so forth. And it also conducts light and sound, like silicon-based technology and all that stuff, fiber optics. And so obviously we're looking at these giant machines, whether it's the pyramids or whether it's all these ancient sites seem to be energy generating or machines or reservoirs or batteries or something to do with energy. It's just advanced technology. If you can use the silica dioxide, if you can use the material in the rock, why extract it out of the rock? If you know that a plant will heal you because of its active ingredient, you don't need to take the active ingredient out of it, just eat the bloody plant. And so the same thing, like if rocks are going to do a certain thing, we use the rocks. You don't have to extract the silica to use it separately, just use the damn rocks. So this is interesting. I was given this picture a long time ago, somebody with a special lens that measures energy, and that shows you that there's still some weird energy coming out of this particular pyramid. Stonehenge, obviously, many research expeditions have been done at Stonehenge now, proving that it's a very powerful acoustic device. And again, as Sam pointed out, whenever archaeologists talk about these ancient sites, it's always ritualistic. It was a ritualistic thing. No, your brain is ritualistic. We're all dealing with advanced ancient technology on a gigantic scale. And when you start looking at these sites from the air, just like when you look at the stone circles from the air, I started to notice something that started to formulate an idea. And the more I looked at them, I started to realize that, these temples, there's just too many pillars and not enough space. This was not for going in and worshipping and praise the Lord and some food and there and worship and sacrifice and all this crap. But come on, really. And then you start seeing them from the air and a whole new picture starts to form. And you realize that these are vibrating pillars and cavities, resonant cavities on platforms. And then you see that concentric circle just in front of that one, and say, wow, what is that doing? And you realize that the temples are actually just templates for gigantic circuit boards, energy circuit boards. And that's what it's just silica, quartz, and vibrational energy, vibrational frequency, most likely coming from the ground. I don't know how these worked, but I remember when I presented this in 2012, first time, at 27 Palms or whatever, Contact in the Desert. The first time was a Contact. I presented this, and when I came out of the lecture, there was a guy that came running after me. He said, "Hey man, I'm a circuit board designer, and like I just love what I saw there." And he says, "You know what? It seems like they have the same problem we have today, and that's the distribution of heat." I'm like, "Cool, dude. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. I had a problem with distributing heat, and that's why it looks so weird. You know, these places were not dwelling places or for gods or worshipping. These were machines, right? And then when you start comparing it to our micro little machines and technology, you start seeing this is technology on a gigantic scale. You know, and we occupied these places much later, like these two things on the bottom left here. Like recent guys come around and say, "Wow, this is great. What can we make of this? Oh, let's have weddings in here." That's what it's for. Ancient wedding venue. And I mean, obviously I just love this one. Are you serious? Like, no, come on. It's identical. It's ridiculous. So I have my own take on the pyramids, but because you're not yet inducted into the Brotherhood of the Pyramid Club, I can't share that with you yet. But if you go onto my website, sign up as a member, pay $100, and I'll give you the information. I mean, Abu Ghraib, come on, you gotta be kidding, really? It's just like, and that's a famous thing in front of Abu Ghraib on the alabaster platform there. I mean, this literally looks like a beam me up Scotty thing, right? And this is Saksai Haman. You know, they call it a mountaintop fortress. No, it's a freaking machine, man. It's an energy generating machine. And then I did some research into is there any interesting way that electricity can be generated or flow that has some sort of a zigzag shape? And guess what I found? There's a thing called the zigzag energy way or something like, I forget what it is, I should memorize it. See, I don't do this anymore. So I forgot all the stuff already. But there's a way that they generate it. They literally call it the zigzag way of generating electricity. And there's a zigzag thing going up into this mountaintop machine. So I'm sorry, I've forgotten a lot of the stuff because I haven't done this presentation for nearly 7 years. My head is in one small town space. So. That's just an outline drawing of that. That doesn't look like a fortress or a dwelling for cows or people. And Angkor Wat. Now you got lots of granite, quartz, energy stuff, and water. When you combine water with that, now you got a double whammy. Yeah, exactly. You're building batteries and capacitors and all that kind of stuff. And Borobudur. Have you ever seen a picture straight from of Borobudur from the top? I don't have one here, but literally, it looks like it's moving. Find a picture, and you look at it, and it's like moving when you look at it. It's crazy. I mean, really, this is a dead giveaway. You know, the bells that force the sound up into the sky. So this brings us to a whole other thing. So if all these ancient sites were circuit boards generating energy, what was it for? And how were they generating them? How did they? Where did the energy come from to start up the circuit board? And then I found that all these circuit boards, like this is the Parthenon, obviously. It was originally a circuit board. There's only a little bit of it remaining. But at all these ancient circuit board sites, there's always a freaking amphitheater just below it. And you know the acoustics of these amphitheaters, you can whisper in there. And it can set a match on fire. No, I'm kidding. But you can hear it. It's like crazy acoustics. So imagine the amount of energy when you fill this place with crazy people and you make them jump up and down and sing and praise and clap their hands and make a noise. How much resonance you get out of that. And look, you got a wire of resonating pillars that run in here and somewhere along the here, I forget where it is, I think it may be in the back here. It goes into the circuit board, connects to the circuit board. So all these circuit boards have these amphitheaters that connect to them with these line of resonating pillars. And you go, Did they use human sound to turn these things on? You know, fill these up with people, get them like clap their hands and whatever. Here's another one. Look at that. There's amphitheater. There's your line of resonating, vibrating pillars, and this is the circuit board. It's really badly destroyed, but you can see it was connected at some stage. There's another one. There's an old broken circuit board on top of that mountain, and there's your amphitheater. Here's in Algeria. Here's a circuit board, and your amphitheater right in the middle of it. So this secret sound activation continued in the medieval times, and it continues in modern times, not just in ancient times. So we went from temples, and the temples just became churches. And you go into the resonating chamber, you sing, you dance, you clap your hands, you do all kinds. The organ plays like crazy, and there's your tower and the cone that energizes and that speeds up the sound into a Caesar beam. We'll talk again. I don't have enough time to go into Caesar beams and Caesar technology and how that works. That's a fascinating story. But each one of these towers, who came up with the idea that all churches should have all these towers on top? Really? Right. How? Why aren't they in huts? And no, churches must look like this and must have a tower. It must be a big room where people can gather, sing and dance and clap their hands, and then there must be a tower on the one side. Okay, I get it. So you realize that this is obviously a plan. Cone-shaped tools, very important, on top of all these church towers. If it's not a cone, it's a dome or an obelisk. These are all the same tools that they use throughout the ages to manipulate energy, either down low the energy down or push it up into the sky, or both ways, whatever they were doing. I mean, really? Come on. Right? You ask our modern architects, are there any architects here? Any architects?
It's my hometown.
Yeah? How are we going to build this today? It's not going to be easy. Probably don't have enough money.
That's what they say.
That's the biggest thing. And look inside. Look at these pillars holding up the dome. When that church organ plays at the end, it vibrates these pillars. And that sound goes straight into the top and vibrates the whole roof. And what's on top of the roof? Boom. And it looks to me like this is shooting the energy into the sky. That's how I interpret it. It could be the other way around as well. I haven't figured yet out how that would work. Like, would you want to electrocute the people inside? Or, I don't know. Or maybe it's a consciousness machine. You know, maybe you send a consciousness frequency in there, and whoever is in there sees the Holy Spirit, or sees the light, or whatever. Something happens to them, and it clearly does when people go into these churches and cathedrals. They experience something. So there's definitely a vibration, frequency, resonance. It's encoded in our language, but we often don't realize it. And then it's not just the sound. Remember, sound and light are inextricably connected. And this is it just breaks my heart that this is not what we teach at the fundamental level of science and physics in school. God said, let there be light. I always joke about this. It's a crash course in quantum mechanics. That one statement. God said, let there be light. Once you decode that, and again, it's a whole other lecture that I would love to share. It's one of my favorite subjects, is quantum mechanics and particle physics, because everything they teach us at school and varsity about that is just absolute mumbo jumbo. So, sound and resonance in all ancient cultures, while we're at this, so you understand why I can make such a crazy statement, and that sound and light, sound comes before light. It's an interesting thing. And many people really struggle with that. Because so many people say, oh, the light, you must be in the light, yeah. But the light first has to have a vibrational resonance to become light. And that vibrational resonance has a sound frequency. So in all cultures, God, we hear God, the Creator spoke the universe into existence, right? So it was the sound of the Creator that brought forth the existence. And God said, so it's a sound, let there be light. So light came next, but it's inextricably connected. So sound, vibration, resonance, That, by the way, again, this is not here, that creates magnetic fields, and magnetic fields are moving because now we're creating toruses. We'll cover that shortly. And the moving magnetic fields create electromagnetic fields, which is light. So you got the beautiful sequence of creation. God said, let there be light, and there is your universe and everything in it. And the matter that comes from the toroidal fields that are created in an infinite universe. Sorry, so back to this. The shape of light. So these windows actually amplify the light frequencies as they come in, because they actually are just magnetrons. Remember the magnetrons? That's why all these windows in these cathedrals are magnetron shape. They're not that by accident. There's a very specific reason for that design. It's just crazy how all this knowledge was stripped from us. It's everywhere. This is fascinating. This was an actual picture. It was taken by a woman called Annie in Sweden. This is the energy coming out of this tower. You can see the toroidal shape, the torus shape coming out. This is mind-blowing. I couldn't believe this picture. Every now and then you get a beautiful photograph like this. So the city grids are just gigantic circuit boards, modern city grids, because there's so much noise. Think about it, all the high-rise buildings, there's people in there answering phones, cars, there's just noise, making a noise, and all this noise is vibrating up these buildings. We make so much noise, it's insane. We're a sound-generating machine. Humanity is a sound-generating organism across the world. Our cities generate energy, we're just not aware of it, through the sound. And so it doesn't matter what they feed us crap as long as we keep making sound. Just make a noise. And this is why when Morpheus held up the battery and he said, we are the source of energy, I didn't understand it then, but I understand it a lot better now. So, where are we? I think I'm going to have to end here. I'm just going to suggest something to you, and then I'm going to end so that it makes sense to you. So the tools and artifacts, the stones that I've been collecting in my museum since 2008, turned out not to just be strange shaped stones, but a very, very important discovery. These are all fossilized body parts of creatures, not stones. And the reasons they ring like bells is because they turned from something organic into quartz, into crystallized metamorphic rock. And that's why they ring so beautifully, because what is in your bones and in your muscle, there's blood, and in the muscle and the blood is iron, and you combine the iron and the quartz in the rock that it becomes, and that's why they ring so beautifully. What is freaky is that all the stones and the walls of the millions of stone circles have the same acoustic properties, and they're made of the same kind of metamorphic rock. Is it possible that all the stones in the walls are actually fossilized body parts of creatures that they used in 10 million stone circles for that specific acoustic property so that it conducts sound so well? That is pretty freaky. So I'm just going to show you some of these shapes. I mean, these are clearly not stones, right? These are organic shapes. But it took me how many years? 10 years. 10 years for my eyes to open, to realize that these are not stones. These are fossilized body parts. I'm gonna just go quickly through this because I need to end. The key thing here is the cone-shaped tools and the toroidal stones, the torus stones, right? The cone-shaped tools are discovered completely by accident, because what I thought were cone-shaped tools, which are significant, were actually fossilized body parts. But the mistaken identity led me to the fossils and to the cone-shaped tools. It's a great mistake. There you go. This is in Egypt. Look at the cone-shaped tools, and right next to them you got freaking magnetrons. Look at this. They got no ideas in Egypt what these cone-shaped tools are for. In Australia, cone-shaped tools. This my deity holding two cone-shaped tools with vibrating plates on his head.
Panama, this one.
Yeah. This is a Sumerian statue, some guy healing somebody with two cones. What I find interesting is the orientation of the cones. Right? Cone-shaped hats in special ceremonies. Wizards' hats are cone-shaped. Their wands have got a cone shape at the top of it. And then obviously this guy here with a cone-shaped, and then this. But we've run out of time now, so I'm not going to get to this. So this is Sumerian cones in the Rosicrucian Museum in San Jose. The cuneiform text on these cones tell us that these cones were used in the construction of the temples of Sumer. That's a translation. In fact, one of them on display tells us it was used in the construction of the temple of Inanna. And it certainly wasn't used up to prop up, to balance the big blocks of stone. And the cone in the creation of Adamu. So Caesar technology, that's obviously to deal with cones, but this is what you'll find interesting. Dragonfly, that's not blood, those aren't veins filled with blood. Those are hollow tubes in the dragonfly's wings. What's at the bottom of the tubes? Hundreds of tiny little cones. So what you'll find is that cones amplify energy, they amplify sound and resonance. It enters the cone and the sound speeds up until it exits the tip of that cone at hypersound speeds, moving faster than the speed of light. Okay, now we didn't get to that part, so now that's confusing. So, Viktor Grebennikov studied flying bugs and how they fly with such big bodies and small wings. I believe that he actually pulled this off because I understand the technology. The cones in the bug's wings is the technology. And I think this is like a motorbike handle he's got here, where you crank up the frequency and you hit that sweet spot where those cones put out a certain frequency that create this toroidal field around you, and it puts you into a state of anti-gravity, gravity-free stuff. These are some of the bugs he studied, etc. And then Elliot's Skull and Coral Castle, that's where the cone-shaped thing becomes very obvious. One day he was seen by two little boys where they said, and I was there 2019, and Laura May is the curator there, or the manager. She found out about me somehow, and then she came out and said, hey, let me take you around, I'll take you around. So she took us around Coral Castle, and I asked her, is it true about these boys that saw Elliot Skalnin and they got arrested and they climbed out? And he said, yeah, it's an absolutely true story. It's well recorded in the police files. And then when they asked him, so why were you doing that? What were you doing? He said, well, we watched this guy and he was levitating these stones with ice cream cones. Now when I heard that, I went, I know what he's talking about. You know, you need to be able to put those things together. So that's the ice cream cone phenomenon. And I'm going to end on this. The torus and cone combination is an absolutely critical combination in all of creation. And we're not going to get to this part, and this is by far the big aha moment. So please watch some of my videos on YouTube. But when you combine cones and toruses, you realize it's the makeup of pretty much all of creation. Because the relationship between the spiraling cone shape that goes into the center of a torus is part of the toroidal field. And where the spiraling energy comes into the center of the toroidal field and meets the spiraling energy, where they meet at the center there, that is what's referred to as the 0 point. Somebody else, the 0 point energy, zero, and most people have no idea what they're talking when there's 0 point energy. Yeah, they got a 0 point energy device. I go, what does that mean? I don't know, it's a cool name. So it's really important to understand how this works. It's so simple. And again, they should be teaching this to freaking 6-year-olds at school. Because it's so simple. The irises in our eyes are toruses. At the back of our eyes, we got what? We got the retina. In the retina we got rods and cones. Starting to make sense? Everywhere you look, cone and torus energy and the combination of it is absolutely critical. But now I'm really going to stop because
But the birds,
the what?
the birds in the beginning.
The birds.
The stone birds. You said you were mistaken.
Oh, the stone birds. Oh, the stone-shaped birds. Yeah, because those are just fossilized body parts.
Oh,
They-
okay.
They're certainly not carvings. Yeah. So everything, we should be able to do this. Oh, by the way, this is a cross section of a stem of flowers, cones, just like when you look at the magnetrons. Everything revolves around this very simple, basic in creation and organic mechanisms. Revolves around toruses and cone-shaped energies, and that is definitely one of my specialized favorite subjects, and that's where we get to the donut-shaped stones or the toroidal stones. And now hold on, I can't leave you hanging. This is just a stone in water, and you can see thousands of tiny air bubbles spiraling into the center of it, so it tells you there's energy going there. This is the famous stone that I gave to Nassim in 2013. That stone crashed the TSA security system in Doha, Qatar. I got hauled out, 5 guys with guns. It's a great story, but I'll get it on all over YouTube. So, and this is a heat sensitive camera, obviously, showing you that the one side of the stone pushes out energy and the other side of the stone sucks energy. So there can be no question that these Taurus stones are energy generating devices, and now I'll really stop. So guys, thanks for listening. All of this is totally connected. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Michael. In a few seconds, we're going to make a break, and we'll let Michael prepare the second part, where he's going to
Go deep.
go deep, but on another subject, one small town. We want him to update us on the news of philosophy of one small town. And before that, since Friday, especially Saturday, we're going to be busy with the concerts and the festivals, I'd like to call people who helped me organize the whole thing. So, come on girls. Evelina, Emma, Anina, Pamela, Vera, you come also, Ayla, Typhoon, Alma, Elvira, Marie-Sophie, Esmer, Eldar, Joditi, Karime, anybody else? This is just part of our team. I'm really proud of them. As you can see, I have a good company here. They make me really younger, and I like their energy. Some of them have been with us for years and years. Aydin is not here, Sandin is not here, but you know them already. So thank you very much, guys, for helping us. And Michael will continue with his presentation. He'd like to cover the fossils. The life of this planet has been around us for a very long time. Sometimes we forget that the bones, they go under the mud without the oxygen. Eventually you get very hard material, stones, but in many cases it is organic material also. Those of you who came with me to the Stone Sphere site, we realized that actually in that material there is also an organic material. And Mike, I think, will be talking about it, what he's finding in South Africa. And after that, we'll hear more about the status of one small town. You know, in our lives, when we see how much injustice we have, and how much trouble people have struggling paying the bills from first to first. How many little kids are dying from hunger around the third world countries. We always think something should be done. We should do things differently. We need to have big changes. We don't need to improve the existing system, but we need to come up with something new, different. Equality, fair distribution of the resources. More spirituality in our lives, but real spirituality. And in the last half a century, we've witnessed that there are for some people experiments, for some others, there are real things. For example, Damanhur in Italy, who just turned 50 years since they started. And they try to combine spiritual and physical aspect. They try to push the creativity. We have Auroville in eastern India, international village, 50 different countries, more than 1,000 people. We have some kibbutz in northern Israel. We have some other places in Norway, in Germany, in United States. But it's not easy because you are surrounded by the system, the capitalist system. And people are going after the money, after the profit. And these other guys, good intentional, they struggle. And it's not easy to define everything, because you have economy, you have agriculture, you have energy, you have money, you have philosophy, you have spirituality, you have hierarchy, you have so many things that you need to think of. And extremely small number of people are capable of trying to introduce the whole new system. That's why I insisted that Michael Tellinger, one of the rare visionaries of the planet, right now, how he is coming up with his ideas, how to organize a society, that everyone, or almost everyone, are really satisfied and fulfilled and happy. The experience that you are having right now, here in Bosnia, all the countries in Bosnia, is also one try to give different perspective, different future to people. Now we are open community. Damanhur, all over, they are communities. When you have communities, they have their rules. When you have the rules, you have positions, you have managers, you have people who deal with the finances, who deal with the projects, and then there is a power struggle. But in our case, we are open community. People come, some of them for 2 hours. Children come from the schools for a day. You have people coming for 3 days. You came for a week. Some people keep coming back and back. So we are open community. And everybody's got touched by the pyramid energy, on consciousness, and for most of them, on subconscious level. And the change is triggered. So we try with our, I wouldn't call it experiment, it's been 20 years now. So, and with such examples, I think that we can form that new puzzle, with that new pieces, how the happier future should look like. So now let's hear from Michael about the fossils, and then let's come back to the present and the future. Here, Michael.
I thought I was done, but clearly not. So, I skipped past my favorite part, which is the science and the physics. The toroidal fields, it really is my favorite part, because that affects everything, from as above, so below. But let's move to this day here. As I said, nothing could have prepared me for the discovery of January 2018, when we discovered the fossils, the mud fossils. Oh, there's John Paul again. Jeez, he gets into every photograph. Literally, this was, so I had 12 people from about 5 countries. It was my first Stone Circle research expedition. And we wanted to do things, research things, do it properly. So we had a bunch of tools and measuring equipment and so forth. And every morning before we went out into the mountains to walk among the stone circles and see what happens, right? We go and research stuff, and discoveries happen by accident. I mean, anyone that's trying to discover something will know what I mean. Things happen by accident. You don't go out and say, today we're going to discover a new extinct dinosaur. No, that's not going to happen like that. You've got to go out there and just do stuff, and things happen. So we took all our little measurement things, and we had quite a few medical people involved. There was a dentist and a doctor and some nursing people and etc. Some were from the USA, from Austria, from Australia, I think from 5 different countries. And before we went out every day, we first did some, I think 7 or 8 different basic body functions measurements. Blood pressure, glucose, iris. We had a special camera that photographed the blood flow in your body. Some really interesting stuff. And so we took all those measurements, and then we went into the mountains, into the stone circles, and then we did stuff and we came back. We were there for a month. So we have a month's of, not a month's record, but probably about 20 days that we went into the mountains. So 20 days where we show that exposure to the stone circles has unquestionably got a beneficial effect to our bodies. Some of it was staggering, like staggering. Some people had 0 blood flow in their bodies. When they came back from the stone circles and you took that camera that shows the blood flow in your body, their legs weren't blue, they were red. The blood flow was everywhere. And the blood pressure was harmonized. Their breathing, their lung capacity was improved, just everything. But by then I already knew that the stone circles were healing, just like Sam showed how the tunnels have an unbelievable healing effect, so do the stone circles. And we didn't get to that part. So let me just quickly talk to you about that. So I've already told you the stone circles vibrate at good earth frequencies, Schumann resonance or its fractal harmonic resonance frequencies. So it doesn't matter, as long as it's a fractal harmonic resonance of the good frequencies of the earth, whether you like it or not, the moment you approach the stone circle or you go inside it, it vibrates at trillions of cells in your body with those good earth frequencies. So you heal, whether you know it or not. So from 2008 already, I've got, just like Sam, but I haven't documented it. I've just, cool, nice, thanks for letting me know. You know, I don't, he's far more scientific about it than I am. But I've got hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of people telling me how their health improved in the stone circles. It's quite mind-blowing. So that's what we are doing. So we have, I guess, some sort of consistent data that shows that exposure to the stone circles is good for human health. But I think it was on the 2nd day that we went out, and we stumbled upon the fossils. All this stuff here, all these stones here, are not stones. Those are all fossilized body parts. This one here, lying there, that's the one that got me. And that's a rib. I'm sure I've got a picture of it somewhere. That's clearly looks like a shoe or a foot. And we joked about it. Wow, it looks like a foot or a shoe. Well, that's what it is. You know, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, crabs like a duck, walks like a duck, it's most likely a duck. So you can clearly see that these are not stones. These are very organic shapes, bone, etc., etc. So you can see the rib. That's the one. It is absolutely spectacular, and next to it is another rib. And we were walking up the mountain to this one stone circle, and I remember picking it up, and until then I was collecting the stones for one reason, because they were weird shaped stones. That's why I was collecting them, and they rang like bells. I had no idea that I'd find myself with thousands of stones that were fossilized body parts. Thank God I collected them and kept them. And I held the stone up and I said, why is the stone this weird shape? I put it down on the wall and we went up the mountain. Half an hour we came back and I said, well, by the time we come down, I will know what the stone is. And I swear it was like I anticipated the future, because as we were coming down, I saw it from like 5, 6, 10 meters away and I went, that's not a stone. And I picked it up and that's a rib. And suddenly everybody could see that it was a rib. And like one moment it was a stone, next moment, and then we all looked at each other and went, oh my God. And we started to look down and we suddenly realized we're standing on a mountain of fossilized body parts, literally everywhere. Crazy stuff. I mean, here you can see, this is a bone.
Yeah.
You can see the bone marrow stuff, right? This is the bone inside, right?
It's like a can.
Yeah, it's a ham. It was a ham. This is what the stone looks like on the inside. This is Hornfels rock. Hornfels rock is known as ringstone because it rings like a bell. So a lot of these stones ring like bells because they're hornfels. Hornfels is a metamorphic rock. So it's really important to try and understand it, or be comfortable with the geology here. When you break these fossils, you can't see detail. It is complete metamorphosis. You can only see detail on the outside, like that. But if you had to break it here, you wouldn't see that. It will look like this. But you can still see the energetic flow. And there was some energy inside that rock that flowed in a certain way. It's really fascinating. And this is the rib I was talking about. You can see this is where it is attached to the rib cage. There's a heart. This is so funny. And that day, literally, I was out there looking at all these stones going, oh my God, what has just happened? Because like I was freaked out. And I was holding this heart in my hand like this. In fact, I think this picture was taken by this doctor. So this car pulls in. It was a Volkswagen Golf. He pulls in and he jumps out and he's all excited. And he comes running up there with his t-shirt and his shorts and he goes, Michael Dillinger! And I go, yeah. He goes, hey man, so good to see you. And he's approaching me and I'm holding this thing. And he says to me, is that a heart you're holding? And I go, yeah, I think it's a heart. I mean, it's all new. And he goes, yeah, that's a heart. I'm a surgeon. I do heart transplants. That's a heart. Oh my God. So I go, cool. And I said, can you give me a little thing on video? So he gave me a little speech about this thing. And I don't know where that video is, somewhere. Yeah, I'm not as good as Sam keeping this stuff. So there's another heart. You can see the septum, the ventricles, the heart muscle at the bottom here. There's a different picture of it. There, the ribs again. Ribs again. My ribs are favorite. I don't know what this is, but it's some sort of a shoulder blade or something. It's a leg, obviously a bone. This is a claw of some sort. We got a lot of these claws. That is freaky. That's some extinct creature, dinosaur kind of creature. That's a hoof. The flat part is underneath here. That's where the bone came in. It's a beautiful hoof. There's another angle of it. So the flat part here is like a hoof, like, it's got the bottom part that's flat and then it comes up from the flat part like a hoof. It's insane. This is clearly a bone. This looks like a piece of a jawbone that goes up into your jaw up here. Just much larger, obviously. That's about this size. So how many of your jawbones will fit in there? See something else. This. There's a beauty. So 2019, I was at my last tour of the USA. I had, oh no, come on. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. Okay, I had this stone, and 3 other stones with me on my trip to the USA, which I showed at my lectures. Clearly, you can see that they're not stones. I was at James Girdleland's ranch in Washington State, and there was a guy called John Vivenko, he teaches remote viewing. So John said, do you want me to remote view the stone for you? So I said, please. So I held it up like this. He took a picture of it. No, I wasn't in it. He just took a picture of it. He emailed it to his 12 students around the world. They don't know each other. They're different parts of the world. All he said was, remote view this object. He didn't say it's a stone, nothing. Remote view this object. That was in the late afternoon. The next morning, I saw him at the fireplace. I asked him, does anyone come back to you? He says, yeah, no, they all came back. They all remote viewed it. So they all except one said that it's the front part of a small toe of a giant. The one person, was a woman, said it's either the front part of a small pinky of a giant or a small toe of a giant. So, what is the statistical probability that 12 people that don't know each other can reach this conclusion? We have a strong scientific argument that this is a toe of a giant. And in fact, if you could turn it around, this is the bone going in, there's just a bit of meat or skin that flapped over. If you look underneath, you can see that the blood that filtered down, and when blood turns to stone or petrifies, it turns black. So literally there's like, at the bottom you can see the black blood that's collected there. Though you can now see that these are not stones. It's very obvious. Once your eyes are open, you can see it, right? These are all body parts of some reptilian creature because of the reptilian skin here, right? And then this is a cross section of it. There's the skin. Look at, you can see the epithelial cells growing in there. And before this, I would walk over these rocks, not thinking anything, for 10 years. This is more. This is another rock with clearly, reptilian skin that's turned to stone. And that's really big reptilian skin there. Look at that. What is that? That's a big boy. Here is a tail of some sort of crocodile. Sam, you saw this. I took you there, yeah. This is the crocodile tail. There's a little leg. Now we don't know. You can see a little, when you play with the color, you can see it better. The question is this an imprint in mud that then turned to stone, or is the crocodile tail actually in the mud and we, it just turned to stone with the mud? Because that's what we're dealing with here, people. It's mud. So these would be known as mud fossils. So it's a body part that lies there, and then a lot of mud comes, covers it, and then all you need is a bit of electricity discharge, lightning strike, and everything turns to stone. Bingo. So a lot of the stuff is in the rock, in the mud that is turned to stone with the mud. It's beautiful. It's so, here, there you go. You can see this is grass, some sort of grass inside the stone. It's turned to stone with the mud that it was in. I mean, this is just a comparison. I was wondering, what the hell is these little bumps on this rock? Then I investigated animals, and that's hippo skin. So, okay, was it some sort of creature that had similar skin to hippo? And this was crazy. For years I was wondering, there's like a little socket here, there's a hollow. For years I was wondering, what is that? What is this in this rock? Doesn't make any sense. Look at the close-up of it. Once you realize we're dealing with fossils, you can see those are scratch marks. Somebody was clawing or scratching when it was soft, when it was a piece of meat or something. And then it turned to stone. And there's just some more claws and things in my museum. Spikes, dinosaur stuff, who knows. And then some of these are teeth. Specifically this one here is very, very important, because that's the one I discovered with the dentist. We were literally scratching around, and I picked up the stone. This is a dentist from Akron, Ohio. And I picked this up, and she went, "That's a tooth." I went, "Oh," she said, "I know, that's a tooth." And that's the bottom part, the incisor, that's the root. And that's it from the side. There it is again, it's upside down. This is the root down here. And that tooth is this size. It's about a foot long. So, how many of my incisor teeth would fit into that tooth? 100? 50, 100, I don't know. So whoever this belonged to is 50 times larger than me. So 75 meters, 80 meters, 100 meters. Clearly a little bone. You can see the scratch marks, 2 long scratch marks, and then the bite marks or scratch marks in where the bone marrow was.
Was
And,
the tooth
so-
a human tooth?
Well, humanoid.
Humanoid, okay, I mean human, okay.
So
Not
there's
animal.
there's the 3. These are the 3 stones I had with me in the USA. So that's a little chicken leg, Nando's chicken. Oh, you don't know what Nando's is? KFC chicken leg. That's the giant bone. That's a giant finger, the pinky, and this is the. And this is literally what it looks like. The fossils just sliding down the mountain with mud everywhere, and they're in the mud and they're on top of the mud. So at some stage they were in the mud, and then thousands of years of rain washed the mud away, and now they're all lying on top of the mud. Some of it is lying on top of the mud, but literally, the mountains are covered in fossilized body parts. It's insane. Look, this is what it looks like. They're just everywhere. This is not weird geology. This is fascia. This was something organic. Fascia is the little sheaths and membranes in our body that hold the muscle together and all the different organs in place and things. Yeah, that's fascia in muscle. So that's what you're looking at. So when you start seeing this kind of thing and that kind of thing, that's not weird geology, that's fascia. That was in something organic. And eggs, obviously. If there were dinosaurs, it should be eggs. There's loads of those. They're just everywhere. All shapes and sizes. That's the bigger one, and then even much larger one. I put there for reference. And then there's a leg of a creature. I think John Paul took this photograph. I was very excited when we found these. So then you just want to collect all the stones. And then suddenly you got no more space in the museum. Then you start putting them in boxes and everywhere else, and people think you're crazy. I mean, that's
Stop
clear.
letting him out of the house.
Yeah. So this is clearly, I call it legs of lamb and other creatures. I mean, these are clearly legs of some creatures. And what's interesting, they all chop the feet off like we do. Go to a butchery and a butcher and the shops, they chop the feet off. They did the same thing. One of these, I think it's this one here, has actually got 2 beautiful cuts. So there's like knife slices through it that just turn to stone. Okay, you can see that for yourself. Oh, there's that chicken leg there. Literally, if you put that on a plate, you're surrounded by salad and stuff. It's even got the right color. It's just come out of the grill. And this, you see this thing, oh, that's just a weird stone. But when your eyes are open, it's no longer just a stone. So I picked it up and I looked, I was like, oh, okay, well, who knows? And then teeth marks, the claw marks and the teeth marks. Clearly see, this is skin. So some creature was busy chowing this. You can see the claw marks holding it down, nibbling on whatever. There's more teeth marks and claw marks here, all of these. I remember picking that one up, that stone, thinking, what kind of ancient tool would have made these perfect marks into that stone? Well, clearly now we know. And then the big claw marks or teeth marks, look at this. These are all the stones that run up towards Adam's calendar. This is dolerite, so let me just be very clear here. Dolerite is supposed to be of the granite family. It's an igneous rock. It's supposed to come out of the ground from magmatic lava, flows that comes to the ground and then cools down. That's what this is supposed to be. I don't think so. So we have to rethink our geology completely. If dolerite was something edible and organic and animal that turned to dolerite rock, we got a huge problem with a big section of geology, and that's what we've got here. Those are beautiful teeth marks going in there, just spectacular, or claw marks, whatever. Here you can see, I mean, it's like a line with, extendable claws. You can actually see the scratches that come in and then stop. And then 200 meters from there, there's a footprint, a lion-type footprint in a rock. And other footprints above it, you can see there, some other creature that was walking there. There's more footprints here. These are footprints in dolerite. So clearly, this was soft at some stage, and it wasn't a rock, because if it was a soft rock, it would have been hot, so no one would have stood on it. So it was something else, organic. It was we could see the claw marks, the teeth marks, and many of these stones, which I didn't bring in here, but we've seen the skin, that reptilian skin also, on a lot of these dolerite rocks at Adam's Calendar. This, when I showed this to the guys at Wits University, or Pretoria University, they told me, oh, this is some sea creature. This is a stone that was underwater in the sea for millions of years, and some sea creature drilled a hole into it. No, it's a piece of meat and a steak. You can still, that's like a puncture wound of some sort, a bullet hole or a spear or something, and you can still see the scales around it. I mean, really? And this? Yeah, sometimes you got to let your imagination run wild. So I'll push the boundaries a little bit, but you're going to have fun with it. These are just big body parts of some large creatures, and this is not new. This is, big bones are being found all the time. So this is nothing new. It's just we don't expect it because they tell us these are rocks. Well, they're not. This is a big bone. It's like a bloody chicken bone out of a very large creature. This is like, from here to that table. It's big. This is a monster. This is like a bone head. This is where the shaft came out and was chopped off here. So you can see the geology is very different. So the bone marrow would have been sticking out. So this turned to stone and has a very different finishing effect than the rest of the stone, which is the bone head. And this is John Paul connecting with this piece of stone next to the highway. We stopped, and the stone had a good chat with him, and told him that it was I thought it was a brain of some giant. No, but John Paul says that it's the inside. It's a stomach lining of a giant about 50 meters tall. Phallus stones. Now we know that they're not phallus stones, they're actually legs and leg bones. There is one that could potentially be a phallus stone, that's another leg bone. And this is very suspicious. Very suspicious.
What is it? Osiris. Found Osiris.
So the fossils scramble the timeline of the circles. Because, I'm just going to go through this quick giants. There's that giant footprint that you saw yesterday. This, if you put your foot here, I took my shoe and measured it, so it's 7 times larger than we are. So 7 times larger than me, that's more than 10 meters. That's, I don't know, whether it's 20 meters or whatever. All the stones at Adam's Calendar are fossilized body parts. Adam's Calendar is made out of fossils. That is just, that's just weird, right? Suddenly the little sphinx is no longer a sphinx, it's very obviously a bone. Because for years I thought somebody carved a sphinx out of a rock. No, sorry, disappointed. I'm more excited at the fact that it's a bone, and now we know what it is. And again, this is dolerite, people. Igneous rock. No, we have to rewrite our geology books. And you want to talk about giants? Phalluses? Again, this was found near Adam's Calendar. This is big, this high. And then suddenly, I was taking pictures of these kind of weird rocks that made no sense to me in 2007 and 8. It's like, why are these rocks these weird shapes? This one here. So I would then, the only reference I had was the famous Leidenberg heads that became really famous in 1930s and 40s from weird creatures that don't belong in South African history at all. So I thought, well, maybe it was a weird replica of a Leidenberg head. I don't know. Now I know that it's just a bloody bone or a fossil of some creature. And the stone man at Adam's Calendar that we affectionately call the stone man. Yeah. Now we know what it is. And then these are all the dolerite stones that lead up to Adam's Calendar. So you drive for about 1 kilometer here, and this whole hill is filled with these fossilized body parts. Hornfels rock, but they're not. They're fossilized body parts. That's now we can understand these scratch marks in them. Like all these scratch marks. Look at this young Heino with this one. Now it all makes sense. And these weird shapes. You know, the site beyond Adam, or this side of Adam's Calendar. Suddenly it all makes sense. Why these rocks have these weird shapes? Because they're not rocks. That's the ceremonial path, by the way, that Crater Mutwa talks about, that they used to walk from Adam's Calendar to the grave site where Dumuzi is buried. We didn't cover that. Dumuzi, Enki's youngest son. And then this, Credo told me, you know, when I first saw this, I went, wow, this is a skull. And it looks like a skull of some weird creature with a very long head. Well, we know that there were beings with long heads. But Credo told me, and this is I found it really interesting, before I thought that this might be a fossil, he said that during the ritual path, they used to have to urinate on the skull to take ascendancy or dominance over these beings and so forth. It was part of their shamanic ritual. So this whole geology at Adam's Calendar, all these this is all dolerite, all on top of Black Reef quartzite. So this is the bedrock, Black Reef quartzite, rich in gold. This is where the gold mine is underneath here. It runs all along the top of that ridge. And that way, towards Kaapsehoop. Kaapsehoop, the town, is over there. And so this is Black Reef quartzite. This is dolerite. It doesn't belong here. But now we know how it got there. There were creatures slaughtered there. And their parts, body parts left behind, and they all turned to stone. That's how we explain how the dolerite gets there. There's no other explanation. It's got no way of being there. There's that footprint again, the lion-type footprint. So we've got to rewrite our geology books. And the more we learn, the less we know. That's what I feel like when I go through this stuff, really. It's great. That's why I love this journey. And that brings us to what our host, Sam Osmanagich, wanted me to talk about. And that's the One Small Town initiative. Because, oh, no, not yet. How old are these sites? So I'm going to cut to the chase. This is just another video showing that the rivers, these rivers and the streams, are younger than the stone circles and the terraces. So the stone circles are there before the rivers. And there's many videos and photographs where you can see where the rivers have washed them away. So, stone circles older than the rivers. You make up your own mind, how old are they? Hundreds of thousands of years old. Then we have another final thing of dating some of these are some of the famous rock art, rock paintings. This is not engravings, these are rock paintings on some of the stones that depict stone circles. And this is a very obvious one. And this is a very important one because we got this crack through that work of art. Now, no self-respecting artist is going to paint his work of art over a crack. There are plenty of rocks that are beautiful and smooth, and so we have to assume that when that rock painting was done, it was done on a smooth rock without a crack. And then the crack happened. And then we see the crack is completely filled with patina. Patina is that reddish skin that grows onto the rock surface. It grows really, really slowly. In the fresh cracks of these rocks, you can actually see it's a fresh, clean break. It's a clear edge. There's no patina in there, and then the patina over thousands of years start to grow back. For the patina to grow into this crack so thick that you can't even see the crack means this has been there for hundreds of thousands of years. This gets me very excited because it's not a rock carving, it's a rock painting. This painting is so old that the patina has filled the crack, but the painting and the paint hasn't faded. I need to take a sample of this, take it to the lab, reverse engineer this, and release a new brand of paint that lasts forever. I mean, if this paint lasts 100,000 years or more, can you imagine painting your car, your house, or anything once? I like this chemistry. These guys, they knew what they were doing. Now we get to the one small town. So what do we do with all this knowledge and information? That's what I started with saying. If we don't learn from our past so that we can benefit from it in the future, then we're just a bunch of idiots and we should suffer. I don't want to suffer. I want to learn from the past and make the future a better future. So by show of hands, now be serious here, okay? Let's not fool around. I'm very serious now. By show of hands, how many of us today here are happy with the way the world is going? Raise your hand. I've been asking this question around the world at the beginning of all my lectures since 2010. Not one person has ever put up their hand. Just let that sink in. Everyone, everywhere, is deeply unhappy about the world, about their lives, how hard they have to work, what their governments are doing, what's going on in the neighboring countries, whatever. Just no one is happy. So what are we going to do about it? Our system is broken. It cannot be fixed. It's completely out of control. We can't fight it because the system was set up to destroy anything that rises up to fight it. It's really that simple. If you try and fight it, you will lose. I've tried in various ways. I've gone into politics. I thought politics might... Was that an interesting experience? Because if you don't know this, I ran in politics with the Ubuntu Party in South Africa in 3 elections. Once I ran for president. We ran in Australia, we ran in the UK, we nearly ran in Canada and in the USA with the Ubuntu Party as well. Thank God we didn't. It would have cost another $1 million. And then it's just wasted down the drain. Politics will never solve anything. Politics is a system of opposition. You're the opposition party. You oppose it. The moment you enter politics, you oppose everyone else in politics. That's clearly not a solution. So politics is set up there to keep us going around like damn hamsters, thinking, oh, this guy sounds really great. We should elect him as president, and this party should... It's the same opposition system. It can never solve a problem. So we need to find a new system. But as Buckminster Fuller said, you don't create a new system by fighting the old system. You create a new system by ignoring the existing system and creating a new system that makes the old system obsolete. So right next door, right on parallel lines. But to achieve that, what he didn't add is what is our motto in the One Small Town initiative, is that we are creating a new social structure by using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. It's very simple and a very powerful philosophy. We don't fight the system. We don't try and oppose the system, try and overthrow the system. We just take what they've set up to keep us enslaved and we use it so that we can turn it around and make it work for us. Everything from the money system, money is the number one tool of enslavement. So, one of our primary objectives, and this is what some people find very objectionable, especially the very conscious, hippie, tree-hugging, bunny-hugging people, and I'm one of those. But I've had to get over that. So if we're going to beat these guys without fighting them, we have to use their tools to help us. So we have to have companies that belong to our towns and communities that make so much money that it makes us sick. We don't know what to do with the money. Like, I call it, FU money. We have to have so many successful businesses in our small towns that make so much money for us that we can do anything we choose to. Because money pays whatever. Money makes the world go round. I don't like that statement, but at this stage it does. So, it's really interesting how the Ubuntu movement that then became the One Small Town initiative has gone through these phases of different people that find us and they just love what we're doing, and then they hear me say, "Oh, we got to start businesses and make a shitload of money," and go, "Oh, now you're turning into a capitalist." No, we just know what we need to do to beat them. If we have more money than them, then we're going to win. But it's not about winning. You understand where I'm going with this? This is a psychological warfare. We got to be smarter. We can't just work harder. We got to work smarter. And by using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, we do all these things. Money is the number one tool. Legal system, all the corporate structure systems, all that stuff. We got to use all that to our benefit. So you're going to not pay tax? No, we're going to pay tax. We're going to pay more tax than anybody else because we want to be seen as like, we don't want to break the law. The moment you try and fight them by breaking the law, you lose. So it's been a fascinating journey, I tell you. So we're creating a new system. And this is our One Small Town logo. And One Small Town is changing the world. So at one stage, we had ambassadors in more than 60 countries. Let me tell you, that was a nightmare. Because I realized that suddenly every ambassador wanted to do whatever they wanted. Oh yeah, we're part of One Small Town, but we'll do it our way. No. That's not how it works, right? It's like, can you imagine if the volunteers arrived here and they just did whatever they wanted? What chaos that would be, Sam? It would be chaos, right? There has to be structure. There has to be structure. If we're gonna create a new system that makes the current system obsolete, we have to learn from what they've done. The globalists, the guys that run the world today. Why are they so successful? Because they have structure, they have reporting, they have accountability, they use the corporate system for their benefit, and we're the slaves. Oh, we're going to do the same. Except we're not going to be the slaves, we're going to be the owners of all these businesses that we start. That's the main thing that we change. So fundamentally, we're taking small towns and we're turning our members of small towns into owners of a diverse number of businesses, starting in agriculture, food growing, seed banks, food security, technology, etc., etc. I believe that we're the ones we've been waiting for. We're not waiting around anymore because no one's coming to save us. It's very obvious. And we have to save ourselves. So, since 2007, in essence, that's when I started to talk about this thing called contributionism. I wanted to come up with a new word that wasn't capitalism or socialism or communism or fascism or whatever, all these isms. Something that was inclusive. And contributionism is the word that came out, where we contribute towards the benefit of our community, where we all benefit from it. And it stuck, so it was contributionism. Since then, we've been learning what not to do. We've done so many different experiments, from Canada to Brazil to Ireland to Wales to South Africa, several towns in South Africa, and I forget what other countries. Lebanon, yes, Lebanon, and so forth. But every time we launch something, we've learned that the people are the weak link. It's we let the structure down. So we've had to find a way that we have a plan and a model so everyone works off the same menu, basically. This is what we're doing, and this is how we do it. So that no one just goes off on their own tangent and says, oh, well, I'll do it my way. And no, then they screw it up. And unfortunately, every time that we screw things up, or one of the ambassadors runs off and does things their way, it backfires on me. I suddenly get phone calls and emails from very angry investors in Canada. I'll give you an example. We appointed some ambassadors in Canada. We discussed, this is what you do, this is how you do it, etc. And this is how you raise funding. It has to come this way, it has to be done this way. You know, a few months later, I get this phone call from a guy in Canada saying, what happened to my $10,000? I funded your one small town in Canada. I paid these guys $10,000 and they're gone with my money. Now it's my fault. So we've had to find a way that can't happen. And yet still make progress. Because we've got to succeed. If we don't succeed with one small town, I don't want to live in this world, I must tell you. We have to succeed, because I don't know anybody else or any other initiative that's doing what we're doing. You know, and God bless all the intentional communities out there. What they're doing might be wonderful for that little community, but it's not a solution for the world, unfortunately. This is our website. We had to create an incredibly powerful blockchain and platform for our members, and very clear steps of how to get involved, what to do, what not to do, what we don't do. So when you log on, become a member, and you sign up either just as a member, or you can choose to be an ambassador, or a project manager, or a business planner, or a community project leader, or anything. There's like, you know, I think 100 different roles that you can choose at this stage. And it starts a process. This is not going to happen quickly. It's not going to happen overnight in your town. It has to happen slowly and systematically, like we're building a community-owned business. Imagine a town of 10,000 people. If every one of us contributes 3 hours a week, which is what you have to contribute as a member, 3 hours a week. We've got a community that's contributing 30,000 hours of free labor a week. Do you know what we can do with 30,000 hours of free labor every week? We can literally move mountains, and that's free labor. We choose to do it. We don't have to pay anybody for it. So, any business we start with that kind of free labor is an immediate competitor to any major capitalist business out there in that same business industry. So, that's one of the main benefits. We've had to start and create the One Small Town platform, which is now a powerful blockchain. It's a private blockchain that no outsider, it's not floated on any stock market or stock exchange. We control everything so that we control the implementation of the plan, and the community can control it. When I say we, the members of that community can control it. Only members can decide what they're going to do, and not any outsiders. Nobody can come in and collapse it, because it is monitored. There are business plans, there's project management, there's accounting systems on it, there's banking systems on it, there's everything you need to start a successful business and manage it. Report systems that would normally cost you thousands of dollars a month, and you get it all for free if you start One Small Town. Like the park, everything is free. We launched our own reward system, the Infinity Token, and we've already sold about close to 2 million of these tokens. You can go online right now, sign up as a member, buy a bunch of tokens, and start using them like Bitcoins. Like in the beginning when Bitcoin first launched, and we were all excited that we can now use a different medium of exchange other than money. Well, Infinity Token is that exchange. It's up and running, it's alive, and it works. Once you got your Infinity Tokens in your digital wallet as a member, you can send them to any other One Small Town member anywhere in the world instantly for free. Nobody knows about it except you and whoever you're sending your Infinity Tokens to. So, I can do a deal with you, say, sell me your car, sell me your house, or sell me a loaf of bread. How much do you want? So much, boom, send you the tokens, you transfer the car in my name. Nobody even knows that I bought the car from you. You see how powerful this is? It's very important. So literally, if the banks had to close their doors tomorrow, and maybe that day is still coming, I don't know. Many people believe that might happen. But if the banks all had to shut their doors and you can't reach your money, everyone can be a member of One Small Town within 2 minutes, get a bunch of tokens, and start working. It's a completely private network that operates outside of the current system. Because it's a private membership system, it does not come under scrutiny of the SEC. We've had to do it this way for that main reason. So we've learned so much. This has come through blood, sweat and tears and absolute personal sacrifice, I must tell you. If I told you what I've had to sacrifice to get to where we are here, it'll sound like a long frickin' sob story. And it is. So the Infinity token is just the first of our tokens. We use the tokenization system on our blockchain to raise money as well. Not raise money through shareholding, capital agreements and all that complicated crap. No, we use the very basic system of crowdfunding, which is a very well accepted thing around the world. Everybody understands crowdfunding, but we tokenize the crowdfunding. So if you donate money as a crowdfunded donor, you actually get a token as a reward. And that token is linked to the future financial success of whatever that business or technology is that you're funding. And we've just launched that. We just launched our first new technology token. Launched 100 million technology tokens. I think we've sold about 2 million of them so far. And this technology token is then, you can then choose which of the new technologies that we're developing you align your token to. And then you benefit 30% of that profit of that technology gets distributed to the token holders. So we've had to think outside the box and, use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. We have to not beat the system, but outsmart the system. And we've done that. So there is so much that's happened with One Small Town in the last 4 years, and especially even the last year. It's quite crazy. So we just developed our first technology. We've got an incredible engineering warehouse. It's a huge warehouse. It's probably, I think it's 20 meters by 100 meters. So in there we develop all kinds of technologies, and we also have an engineering corner now that can make all the parts for all the technology that we're developing. So we don't have to order from third parties, because that was a big problem for us. And the first technology that we developed that is now working, that's rolling off the production line, is our recycling technology. Our recycling machine looks something like this. Obviously, how it works and what it does is our IP. We developed that from scratch. We own all the technology and the IP in this thing. And this thing can pretty much recycle all the plastic waste and all the rubber waste in the world, literally. Because these machines are small, they're portable, we can put them in a container and drop them off anywhere. Very different. Instead of going big, and the whole industry, this industry seems to all want to go big and huge, and then they sit in one place where you can have 1,000 of these machines scattered all over the place. They can be in factories, they can be at dump sites, they can be everywhere. This is a huge breakthrough for us, because One Small Town will not succeed unless we have funding. That's the one thing that we learned a long time ago, and somehow we've been surviving by the good grace of a few people that have been donating a little bit of money to us, and that's just helped us survive. Our token sales have been a great blessing that's given us a few million with which we could set up the factory and the manufacturing of this new technology. This is rolling off the production line. We've got a number of agreements in place that will become the funding mechanism for all the small town activities. So we become the funders of the small towns, and we don't have to wait for outside funders and investors. This is a huge breakthrough. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. I trust you understand what I'm sharing with you. But it's just rolling off the production line right now, so it's about to start bringing us the funds that we've been working so hard on. Really pushing us right to the edge. So that's where we are with One Small Town. And anyone can go online, become a member. You don't have to live in a small town to be a member. So anyone, anywhere in the world can become a member, buy tokens, and start using them. The way that we bought Bitcoin and started using them. Put on your invoices when you put your invoices. Put I accept payment in Infinity tokens, and see what happens. The more people do it, the more it starts to get used. So I'm not going to go into the detail about how we launch One Small Town, but we've got a really exciting plan of action, how we plan to launch it. So we are now identifying a small town in South Africa, in the UK, in England, should I say, and one in the USA. Those are our 3 main territories. We're going to go into that small town with our own funding and actually launch it the way that we see it being launched. Because all these years, I was appointing ambassadors, trying to train them, trying to teach them how to launch One Small Town. That was my fault. It's stupid, it's naive and ignorant and unfair. How can I expect someone who's just found us, they've just read a little bit about One Small Town, watched some videos, now I expect them to know what I've learned over 20 years and they must suddenly know that? It's unfair. So we've stopped that now. We're going to go out and we're going to launch the first One Small Town the way it should be launched, with our own funding from this technology, and use that as what we call this first Cinderella small town example of how it should run. And once that's up and running, then it's easy. Everyone can see what to do. Part of this is the community kitchen. Part of this is the One Small Town trading store. Let me tell you, that is a game changer on a level that I don't even want to start talking about. That makes me so excited, because we're going to change the way we trade goods and sell goods, and farmers, manufacturers, industry, technology. The One Small Town trading store is going to be the place to get your stuff on the shelves, because how it interacts with the community and how the infinity token is used in those One Small Town trading stores. It's a thing of beauty, let me tell you. So as some people keep reminding me when I get impatient and anxious and I just want to go, I say, listen, remember, this is not your plan. So I think we're very close now, and it's been a 20-year journey to get to this point. So when people ask me, so how many small towns have you got going? Okay, let me explain to you how it works. So I think we're very close now, and I'm really excited to. Next week I'm in the UK, I'm in England, I'm doing 2 full-day workshops with I think we've sold out all our tickets, 200 people per venue in the UK, 2 different towns. So the interest is growing. We've got a special plan for England, which is very different to South Africa, because the socio-economic reality in South Africa is very different to England. So we have to adapt from country to country. Back in Bosnia, we'd get Muyo to run it. And it would work. So I hope that brings you up to speed where we are. It's been a really interesting journey, and it's drained me of all my energy, and I must say the last few days here has helped me regain a lot of my energy, and my whatever. My sense of humor is back. I was in the tunnels, if you can call them that. Please don't tell anybody that Sam is a shareholder in the Boring Company, because that's not going to go well for him. So, are there any questions? Questions about the stone circles or anything? Oh no, we don't have time for questions. No. Okay. That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much. Go online, sign up as a member of One Small Town and tell everyone. It costs you nothing, it takes 2 minutes of your life. Thanks.